What is going on, everybody? Welcome to my channel. Not a certain point of view or Apocalypse Movies, if you may know me. It's just my personal channel. I do some really cool whiskey Star Wars talk here on this channel, but today's a little different. We're not doing anything Star Wars related. We are solely focusing on Cobra Kai and season 3 of Cobra Kai. And I got some really cool people to do that with me today. We're going to be diving into everything. It's going to be full spoilers. And so if you, hopefully you're not here and you haven't seen season 3. We all binged it. We all watched it over the weekend, and we're here to do a full breakdown discussion on this show and what season 3, did, all the stuff that had happened, as well as kind of moving into season 4 and beyond. What's going to happen next for all these characters and the story in particular. So, with all that said, let's just get to it. Let me bring on my guests here, and first up, my partner in crime for a lot of the shows here that I do. On Apocalypse Movies and a certain point of view, that is Mr. Brian Abelacino. What's up, man?
The nicest thing you've ever said about me, your partner in crime. I'm done. Just take me out. I'm good. Good. Ready to talk about it?
So we binged. We all one sitting.
6
me,
hours
and our buddy
straight.
Max. We sat for 6 hours. We watched it on Friday. You pumped to finally talk about it publicly about Cobra Kai?
Yeah, and talk about the nonsense that of you and Max just like squealing and screaming and all that good stuff. Absolutely.
So we're not doing it alone. We got 3 more gentlemen to bring in. And first, I'm going to bring up. He is the host of Let's Get Ready to Talk Schmodown, formerly now known as Let's Get Ready Network, and that is Mr. Suge Knight. What's up, man?
Well, the fact that you called me a gentleman, I appreciate it. Nobody's ever called me a gentleman. Thank you very much, man. Thank you for having me on. Love hanging out with you guys, especially to talk about Cobra Kai and geek out about it because it's an amazing show. And also always awesome to hang out with you two and plus the 2 gentlemen that you're going to be bringing on. So I'm super excited for this.
Perfect. And then with next one, we got a host, one of the many hosts of Call to Action, and that is Mr. PLD.
What's up, guys? So thankful that you guys will have me on. It's funny, me and Shib were talking about this, like, I forget when it was. He's like, we got to get together and do something. And all of a sudden, yesterday on Chill, she was like, oh, I'm going to go on. We're going to go out with Jake tomorrow. Dude. I'm like, what the hell, man? What the hell? So I had to crash the party at that point. So I appreciate the ability to crash the party here.
Yeah, no, dude, glad to have you here. It's going to be a fun conversation. None of us have ever talked Cobra Kai together, and Brian and I have, but the 5 of us collectively have never done it together, so it's going to be a lot of fun. And finally, not last, not least, but he is one of the bigger names in this space, and he's involved a lot in our community, and that is Mr. PJ.
Please don't say that shit. The bigger names. Are you fucking kidding me? Number one. Hi everyone. It's good to see you. Cobra Kai never die. Let's fucking do this.
Yeah, let's just get right into it. We have a lot to talk about, obviously. We have 10 episodes to talk about. But I want to hear everybody's initial reactions and even thoughts of the previous seasons, because like I said, none of us have ever really talked about Cobra Kai together. So PLD, why don't you start us off, man, about your history with Karate Kid, going into Cobra Kai, and then obviously what you think about season 3.
Okay. Well, obviously, I'll the elephant out of the room. I'm probably the oldest guy here, so
No.
this is right up my alley. Karate Kid.
You are.
I definitely. I actually saw Karate Kid, I think 2 in theaters. I think actually that's how old I am. But Karate Kid 2, Karate Kid 3. I love the franchise. I actually was around when the first germs of this kind of idea started. When they had the music video that William Zabka was in, and then of course the How I Met Your Mother's episodes where Barney brought up the idea of Johnny Lawrence as the good guy and that Daniel Lewis was the bad guy. And then I heard that this show is coming out, and I was like, this can't work. Can it? There's no way this could work. But I'll give it a shot. Like, I know I have such a love for the franchise. I'll binge it. It'll probably be terrible. And like by the end of season 1, I was like, holy fuck, they did it. They made me love this thing all over again. And then season 2, I was like, I actually even did the same thing. I'm like, okay, that was got to be a fluke, right? Season 2 is going to crash and burn. We're never going to see it again. Holy fuck, they did it more. And then finally, I get to this season. At this point, I'm done. I was done doubting it. There's a little bit of sliver. I'm like, okay, well, we're getting past the original film. We're going into the Karate Kid Part 2 now a little bit. Okay, they're going to start going... Because the franchise, of course, the first film was awesome. The second film was great, but the third film was a little lesser maybe, but still fun. But it's like, what can they draw? What can they make work? all right, I'm done doubting now. This is one of the best shows I've had on TV, and it touches all the right angles, just the right amount of nostalgia, done properly. I'm all in now.
PLD, I don't want to know how this show touches you. That's all I'm saying.
That's for the after show.
Yeah, and to think that this was for the first 3 seasons a YouTube show, that is absolutely
right.
It's insane. PJ, what about you?
I am considerably younger than PLD, not considerably, but I am younger than PLD. And Cobra Kai was one that I was kind of like, you announced it, and this is really coming off a joke from How I Met Your Mother. Like, there's no part of me that thought that this should work. Like, How I Met Your Mother kind of rebranded the whole thing, and it was like, what if Johnny was actually the hero of the story? And then them being like, well, what if we actually did that and turned it into a TV show? Why? Like, Karate Kid was like 3 movies plus the Hilary Swank one, and we had the Jackie Chan movie. Like, let's leave it alone. Don't mess with it. Like, nostalgia grabs are never necessarily a good idea. And then season 1 dropped on YouTube, and it was like, wait, this is actually kind of good. And I really like the franchise, and I don't know what to think. And then season 2 came out, and it was like, oh shit, I think these guys know what they're doing, especially considering it was the Hot Tub Time Machine guys. Like, what's happening right now? And then this season is a fucking masterstroke of storytelling. I really love this franchise, man. I grew up watching the original 3, and they mean something to me. Like, they're the Rocky of the childhood version. Like, same producers, same director. It's Rocky for kids. And we all, like, I grew up watching Happy Days. Pat Morita was the original Al from Al's. Like, come on. Who didn't love the Karate Kid? And so to revisit it, especially post, like, the reboot, I didn't really know what to expect, and I've fallen in love with this world. I've already binged season 3 twice over the last weekend. I've watched the finale 4 times. I fucking love Cobra Kai so much. It's insane. I tweeted earlier this weekend, I want everything to be as good as Cobra Kai. It's not asking that much, and yet here we are.
That's very fair. Very fair. Shug, are you on PJ's level?
I am definitely on PJ's level. I love Cobra Kai and the Karate Kid franchise because not only does it, obviously I'm a big sports person and I wrestled in high school, so competition and all that, but it had a strong message about bullying. It had a strong message about believing in yourself. You needed to, stand up and fight to show that you can. You could be a big person. It doesn't mean fight like beat the crap out of somebody, but to fight for yourself. And that's always what I loved about Karate Kid. But Cobra Kai, and let's be honest, is it cheesy? Absolutely. But right now we need that in our lives. It has been a shitty year. I'm okay with some cheesiness but it pays off so good. There's moments that you start screaming. I have not stopped listening to In the Air Tonight all week.
Literally just talking about that.
I tell you, I was on the chat with Shug the other day. We were doing in a Discord chat, and he just kept playing over and over the background. I can still hear. I'm like, there it is. There it is again.
Yeah, that song gets you hyped, And then, like you said, when you heard about this show, you were like, okay, let's see what it's about. It's on YouTube. It's probably not going to be that good. Whatever. The first season was excellent. The first season was awesome. The second season, I personally liked over the first season. The second season, what they did at the end, I was like, are you kidding me? They actually did that? And in this season, it just, even like I said, there's a little cheese, there's a little bit of coincidence that happens, but it's okay. It's a show. Like, we watch Marvel. We think guys can phase through walls or shoot beams out of their eyes. Sure, they're all going to meet up at a freaking laser tag and beat the shit out of each other. It's okay. That happens, And so
that happens in the Valley, man.
Dude, it fucking happens in Sacramento too. I don't know what the fuck people are acting like. People acting like this shit doesn't happen. I went to high school. Kids beat up each other in fucking laser tag arenas. I don't know what the fuck you guys are talking about.
Yeah. Exactly. So I loved it, and I was PJ. I got sick on New Year's Eve. Woke up at midnight. Just out of nowhere, I watched the whole season, and then I went to work and watched the whole season again. And then I've watched the ending probably like 8 times. So, I'm on that level of PJ's. It's been amazing. And then there's other parts. We'll get into the Okinawa. I watched that episode like three or 4 times because I love it. I love the Okinawa with Chosen and everything like that. So it's been amazing.
Brian, what about you? You're obviously fresh to the Karate Kid realm. a little history on you. You just recently watched them like the last year, right?
No, I watched them before we even before the series started.
Oh, okay. So a few years.
Yeah. So far different path than everyone else. Our buddy Max and him were talking about it constantly and how excited they were for it. So it piqued my interest, and so I was like, all right, fine, I'll binge all of them. And I was like, oh, this is pretty cool, but how the hell are they going to make this like a cool TV show that like people want to watch on YouTube of all places? And then like you watch the first season, and you're like, oh shit, this is really good. Like this is hilarious at points. And then the second season comes, and you're like, holy crap, how does this keep getting better? It's still on YouTube. YouTube's the ones producing this. And you get to this season, and you're like, how is this show getting better? How is this little engine of a show just getting better every single time you watch it? And it's just literally done so perfectly. And the writing for it is absolutely phenomenal. The acting in it is amazing. The fact that they literally get everyone to come back is probably what also makes it that much better. Nostalgia is the perfect word for it because that's all it gives you.
Yep.
And yeah, it's phenomenal. I love it to death. And for me, it's funny because if you for those that didn't know, I'm a teacher and I teach middle school, and this is all they care about right now.
Hell yeah.
All they care about is Cobra Kai. The second it dropped on Netflix, it is like the coolest thing. If you're not watching Cobra Kai, the kids are like, what are you doing? It's the greatest show ever. And it's just so funny to me that like something from so long ago has made a resurgence and is more popular than it ever has probably been. And it's just from a YouTube show, but it just also shows you you give it access to something like Netflix and where it's more easily watchable to middle school kids and stuff like that. It's going to blow up. And that's exactly what it did.
And it's not just middle school kids. Like, to your point, like my parents have already watched it.
Oh, yeah.
That's fucking crazy. My parents are in their 60s, and even my parents are like, we love Cobra Kai. Like, we like these movies. We want more of it. It's like, what the... like, who ever thought Karate Kid could come back like this, and everyone's watching it?
No one.
No.
Not after that reboot. I mean, the reboot wasn't bad. Like, oh my God. But that reboot was like... And that's what a lot of things... When you talk about bringing stuff back, people look and go, well, wait a minute. Do you want it to fail? Like, the Karate Kid with Will Smith's son, it bombed. Let's just be honest, and that's why people were so skeptical of this, because they're like, you already tried this. Now you're going to bring back the original characters. Is this just a cash grab? Oh, it's on YouTube. Or is Ralph Macchio and William Zabka, are they broke right now? Do they need money? Like, what's going on? Like, and these were things. Even Christian Harloff said that when they talked about this show, he's like, what is going on? Oh, it's gonna be stupid. They're just gonna be da-da-da. And it's an amazing show, and it's really awesome. You get into it, you care about the characters, and you get really invested. There's a lot of people that are emotionally invested. There's points in the show that I actually did tear up. And I don't tear up often, but I teared up in some of these parts. The Miguel and William Zabka scene, or Johnny scene when he's in the hospital. That got to me bad. I don't know why, but his acting in that spot got me. So I think this is an amazing show, and like you said, PJ, not only young people watching it, older people, it's everybody is watching because they can relate somehow.
Yeah,
to the show.
And I don't know if you guys remember when it was originally announced, like the original Deadline article, because they broke it like super early, like 5:30 in the morning on a Monday or something at the beginning of a week. And one of their things was they were like, it's going to be a comedy. And so all of us thought they weren't going to take it seriously. And then everyone involved had to come out and they're like, no, like it's not going to be a comedy. Like there will be comedy, but it's not a comedy like the way that it was being portrayed. But because it was the Hot Tub Time Machine guys, a lot of the people were like, I don't know, man. No. They were 100% the right people. Because if you've seen Hot Tub Time Machine, it's like exactly this. It's an 80s nostalgia fest for people like us.
Perfect.
100%.
Jake, what did you think?
No, you're good. This is why I wanted to get this together. I want everybody's thoughts. No, the best way I can kind of sum up my thoughts is that this show has no right of being this good.
Damn right.
It literally has no right being this good. It is such a great television show. It's the thing that always pops in my head when I watch it is it's brilliantly written. It is written so fantastic from start to finish. And we talked about the nostalgia already, but the way that they're able to weave things in and out so fluidly without you second guessing it or without you questioning it, that to me is some of the most important things in television writing, especially when it's playing off of something that's already had a history, something like The Karate Kid, where there's a lot of stuff coming in. You know, we're going to talk about people popping in and the characters that have come in and the stories that have come in, but I am so blown away at how well written this show is, and that, you know, it just continues to kind of up the ante, and it continues to get better, and it grows on itself, and it continues to evolve. And there doesn't really seem like there's a ceiling yet for it, which is crazy. And we've mentioned it multiple times, but the first 3 seasons were all YouTube. Now it's in Netflix's hands.
Yep.
And what is Netflix going to give, you know, the guys behind it? What are they going to give them to be able to create the show and give it even more? And it's going to be very exciting.
Right.
It's going to be very
also what clout do they get now? Because it's like, oh, you're on YouTube. I don't know. Now you're on Netflix. All right, I was chosen in the second one. I'll come back. I'm Elizabeth Shue in the next Karate Kid. I'll come back and reprise my role because she has a Netflix connection. You know, you have these other people coming back. So it you know, we were talking before we got on camera. What if Michael Ironside came back and reprised his role? That would be dope. Like, if you have clout now, you have clout, and you can also bring new people in. But what I like is the story still centers around Johnny and Daniel, but they made the story around them. Like, everybody has an arc. They're going somewhere. Some people believe this is where this person's going, and they change direction. Some people just stay on a path. Kreese is one path. He ain't changed for shit. There's no up and down with him. He's one path. Yeah, he's pretty much the emperor, you know. And so it's been you know, it gives them clout to really go, and like you said, we don't know how long they're going to go. I don't want them to burn it out, but it's just been amazing. I do love this show.
Well, and to that point, like, we were kind of talking about it off camera, because a lot of us here, I mean, we all kind of felt like this felt like the last chapter, like the penultimate chapter to this storyline. And then the showrunners came out and they were like, we have years worth of stories left to tell. And apparently they're going to try to go to Netflix and be like, this is our end date. Like, this is what we want to reach. And it'll be one of the first times anyone at Netflix has been able to be like renewed all the way out, because Netflix is notorious for just doing like one at a time, and then a show will end on a cliffhanger because they didn't get to tell the story. But these guys want to go to Netflix and go, hey, this is our end date. This is our end game, and we want to get to this. And no one's done that. But that's the kind of clout they can get, because over the summer, Cobra Kai became Netflix's biggest show ever. Like, ever. And that's crazy.
It beat Stranger Things. It beat Stranger Things, which is huge. That's insane.
That's insane.
I mean, part of me thinks that also they probably almost already secured the like, this is how far we want to go, because if they're getting bought out, but everyone wanted this property, so I mean, like, you kind of have to get a little something. I feel like Netflix had to budge and break a little bit in order to secure this, because I mean, they knew in my opinion, the people that made the show knew they had something. So when they were shopping it around from out of Netflix, whoever, like, it almost kind of was like, what are you going to give us to give you this show? And part of me thinks Netflix is just kind of just like, do whatever you want at this point. I mean, and they'd be smart to do it, because what they're doing is fantastic.
Yeah. And one of the things they do well that I want to mention is the fact that, and we kind of touched on this also again off air, what they do best is that they're creating such an overall world, and that everything that they're writing now is making what came before it even better. Like, you can love the original franchise and you're loving it, but there's definitely cheesy moments. There's definitely some lesser moments. But like, I watched a scene, for example, later, like halfway through the season, when Daniel's daughter was all like upset and she had no faith in herself, and they flashed back to that scene in Karate Kid 3, which made me, like, I got goosebumps watching Miyagi go like, no, like, getting his attention and everything else. I was like, and it was so brilliant how it tied into exactly what her character Amanda LaRusso was feeling, and how Daniel became Mr. Miyagi in that scene. In a way, it was so beautiful how it just makes everything better, right?
Mm-hmm. Can we also talk about, just like to your point, how awesome it is over these 3 seasons that Miyagi has continually been like a presence, especially considering Pat Yeah, he's his own character. Even though Pat's passed away, like it's incredible that he can still be felt so heavily on the show. Like his presence literally weighs on every decision that is made, and I love it for that. Like there's so much respect going on for the IP, but specifically for Pat Morita and Mr. Miyagi, that it's like everything feels natural and it works, and it feels like every character is doing what they're doing in either in spite of or because of, and I think that's really interesting.
No, I'm sure we're going to talk about it, but Miyagi's letter in Okinawa.
Oh my god!
Fuck.
Yeah.
Broke me.
Yeah, I fucking cried.
All right, so let's get into this, fellas, because we do have a lot to discuss here. Let's kind of go like maybe in chunks a little bit. So before the Okinawa stuff happened, which is episode 4 and 5. Obviously, we know that season 2 left off on a cliffhanger, the school fight, and the first couple episodes are very much kind of like picking up the pieces, right? Daniel's wife Amanda's like, no karate, no karate, no karate. Their business is kind of struggling because they're tied to this fight that has happened. They're kind of looked at as the bad guys. Miyagi-Do is very much, trying to protect themselves from Cobra Kai, and they're being bullied, but they don't know how to go about it because Daniel's not teaching them at the moment. They're just trying to find ways to protect themselves. At the same time, Johnny is very much, picking up the pieces on his own. Miguel's in the hospital. He wakes up at the very end of the first episode, and their relationship is kind of rocky at its first. And we get these really great moments between them once they kind of come back together, of Miguel learning to walk again and pick up his own pieces. So these first couple episodes and everything that kind of happened, were we happy about how it kind of picked up from season 2? Did we have questions, or were they just full on like, let's go, we're ready for this? Why don't you start us off, PJ?
I really like where it picked up, to be honest with you. And the one thing that I've liked about this show is that everything has felt very much in line with what's happened before, and there's like a very specific path that everything takes. And so to pick up right where it left off, within 2 weeks of the incident, is very smart. Like you didn't jump ahead, because jumping ahead in time is great for some shows, but for something like this, I felt like you needed to feel like the immediate after effect of the situation. Like that, the way they frame it is it was a full riot in this school, and like it's affected everyone. Like LaRusso's car business is being affected by it. Johnny's personal relationships with everyone is being affected. The children's relationships is being affected. The school is being so you had to feel the ramifications of everything that happened. And so I was glad that it started right there, like down to, it's so funny to see it, but like down to the school board meeting, and this idea that the school board is like, well, we're just going to have kids hug each other and like act like none of this ever happened. You can't just sweep shit under the rug, like no matter how much we want to try to. And that's a common thing that we see in real life, is people just trying to say that we can sweep shit under the rug and it's no big deal. And no, bullying and shit happens. And so the show very smartly made sure that everyone kind of was felt in what happened in those moments. Thank God. And it was so good, man.
And the part I think that I love one of the most is when they're at the school board meeting and stuff, and they're just like, what are we going to ban karate? What is this, Footloose? And it's just so funny, because it's like karate is like almost like a plague taking over this town, and like it's the most ridiculous thing to be taking over this town, but like everyone like knows about karate, and it's like it's just the most ridiculous thing, and they're just like, everyone's gonna hug each other and stuff like that, and it's just like it was so ridiculous but so funny, and just like, because I mean at the end of the day, like all of this is starting over karate.
Yeah. Which, to your point, there's a really funny line, like in one of the later episodes where they deal with that, and one of the characters goes, I just don't understand the Valley's fascination with karate. And I was like, yes, I'm so glad someone said it. Like, I'm not even mad, but it was just so good, and it made me laugh, like, incredibly hard.
Yeah, so I just love how, like, they know it's ridiculous, and they addressed it in the beginning, too. Like, It's a ridiculous thing. We had an all-out karate gang fight in the
Yes.
school.
Well,
And
I'll kind of push back on that, and I get where you're coming from, and it is ridiculous. But I went through a situation in high school where one of my wrestling teammates got in a fight and just used some wrestling against this guy and put the guy in the hospital because he head threw him and hurt him. And when you know these kind of things, you're actually very like dangerous. And so it is a serious situation. It is ridiculous because you're like, a bunch of people are not running around in a high school doing karate.
Yeah.
But now with MMA and everything, a lot of people know these self-defenses better
Absolutely.
than they did 10 years ago. And so they use it in a fight and it happens. And so this is the ramifications of it when you do that. When people like us who were younger watched UFC and then went out and started training and started using this in a high school against somebody that's not trained, you could seriously hurt somebody. And people got seriously hurt. When Miguel fell from that balcony, that was crazy.
yeah,
That was legitimately could happen in a fight in high school. And
absolutely.
you know, the obviously, like you said, what is your obsession with karate? It's hilarious when you think about it. Like, I cannot imagine a bunch of kids just straight, crane kicking each other.
Right?
in high
Like
school.
going to
But
a
you can't-
dojo.
Story,
Yeah, but
already.
but you can't imagine kids fighting
Absolutely.
and not knowing what they're doing and hurting each other. And so it fed into that because you had some things that were, like you said, a little over the top, but it really underlining made a good point of, look, if you know certain things and you can hurt people, you can be very dangerous. If you don't control yourself, you can hurt somebody very bad. And look what happened. Miguel, showed mercy to Robbie, and Robbie got mad and hurt him really bad. And so that's an underlining thing. What I love, it takes real world, thoughts and conversation. Like, you got to be able to control yourself when you know these things. You just can't go out and just start wheel kicking people in the head. Like, I don't know if any of us, I mean, I have, but have you ever knocked somebody out? It is the most craziest thing to do to somebody when you hurt them that bad and they're out. Like, it's not normal. So what I loved is they took it seriously, but they also made it to where it wasn't too seriously. Like, you're not really going, oh my God, like, I can't watch this, but it was still.
I want to marry that point. I want to marry those 2 points exactly. My point is that's one of the things that they did well. Is there's plenty of cheesy-ish moments, just definitely moments of convenience where things are like, okay, we're obviously in a fictional world and a TV world. They're not quite realistic here and there, but you accept that because the reason why they're doing a lot of the stuff is to make commentary on some serious real world issues. So it's the best way to use that fictional. And like, if you didn't make those good points, the show wouldn't be as good. It'd be kind of like, that's convenient, that's ridiculous, okay, whatever you would. But you accept those moments because of how they impact the real world, the issues that they want to make commentary on.
And to your point, like, the show is very earnest in what it's doing, and that's why it works. Like, the cheesiness of this show that people like to latch onto who may not be enjoying it, the reason it works is because the show is also earnest. Like, the characters feel real, the world feels real, the situations feel real. So even when it's over the top and cheesy, at the same time, you're waiting for the next very real human moment that comes from it. And that earnestness is the thing that keeps the show afloat. Like, we can talk all day that, yeah, it's definitely people are throwing themselves into fucking tables and this riot breaks out in a school, but at the same time, like, think about what came of that, the ramifications. Again, Johnny's entire sequence once he sees Miguel in the hospital bed, like, come on, man. Like, that stuff is so earnestly done that it works, and that's why it continues to be so compelling episode by episode.
Yeah, and you talk about the human emotional part. Look at when Miguel wakes up and he goes to see him.
Yeah.
And Miguel asks him, "Why did this happen to me?" Think about that. Miguel wasn't trying to fight. He was trying to protect himself. He was trying to protect himself in the beginning. It got to him a little bit because he got a girlfriend. He got popular. He won the All Valley thing, and he started to get a little confidence. He's like, I'm feeling good about myself. And then this happens to him, and he's like, "Why did it happen to me? I thought I was just being, trying to protect myself."
And he was showing mercy.
And now,
showing mercy.
And then he finds Johnny as a father figure, and it's like, I don't have a father, so now I'm attached to you, and I'm gonna protect you because I care about you. And so I'm thinking I'm doing all the right things for you, and now I'm sitting here in a hospital bed hurt, by your son, like that's a real moment. And when he said to him, look at me. Why did this happen to me? I broke down because I was like, damn, that's hard. That's hardcore right there.
And
that's a hardcore situation.
In the mirror of that was Sam with Daniel when she was like, I thought we were the good guys in all of this.
Yeah.
Like there's this very similar sequence like pairing with that where I thought we were the good guys and now everyone thinks we're the villains. Like everyone's looking at us like we did something wrong, but we were trying to protect people. We weren't trying to hurt anyone. And again, that's the earnestness of the storytelling, is that every one of these characters is feeling some sort of ramification from the super chaotic event that happened. But the truth of the matter is real life is chaotic. Like we talk about all the time, like look at all the stuff that happens in the world that feels like it should be something scripted out of a movie, and yet we can't wrap our heads around chaos. We just can't. And so we all deal with stuff differently, and I think the show has done a really nice job of marrying that in like a entertaining but like easy to digest sort of way through karate.
Yeah, no, for sure.
What did because I haven't talked to anybody about this, and I haven't gotten anybody thoughts on this, but what did everyone thinks about Sam's like stuff that was just going on when she would touch the handlebar on the stairs and she would kind of flashback?
PTSD.
Yeah,
her
like
PTSD.
what did we think about her reaction to it all, and kind of like these places that she would go whenever she would see the staircase, whenever she would see Tori? It happened multiple times when she saw Tori. Because I really enjoyed it personally. It was full on just like she went through this very traumatic event. She got busted up with some spikes on her arm, and she can't handle it, especially as a kid. We have to keep in mind, these are still kids. They're 16 years old. So it's kind of a big deal for them.
Yeah,
and also,
living
a life of privilege. Also, as we know, like there's some stuff she didn't know. She grew up in this wealthy household. I mean, she learned karate. She probably learning karate like as a not a real life thing, it was more just a spiritual thing and everything else. Also, she's put in the middle of this gang war of her friends and everything else, and she doesn't ever experience anything like that. So it makes sense that the traumatic experience would affect her the way it did, and more through. And it worked. It worked as a continuation of the story, and it worked giving her father another great arc because the whole arc for Daniel has basically been trying to living up to Miyagi's teachings, and in a way, like he's kind of doing this he's pushing back a little bit because he doesn't think he's ready to be Miyagi. He can't be. He's still looking to Miyagi. He's like, I can't do what Miyagi did. I'm not Mr. Miyagi, but yet that's his role now. And so using her as one of the springboards to that makes all the sense in the world, and that's why one of the reasons it's so good. It's so organically done.
Yeah, and it also brings up a big point. Obviously, like Brian, he works with children. When you get in a fight, and you have to see that person you got in a fight with again, there's trauma there. There really is trauma.
Been there.
There is trauma. There is some. It might not be to the extent that it portrayed in the show, but there is this kind of trauma, and I like that because that's something real that people deal with. When you see the bully that you fought or the person you fought, there's something there. Something happened. You get a little woozy. You get a little stomach, feeling, and it's just that's something real. Like I said, it wasn't to the extent. It's not to the extent of Sam feeling it, but it is. But I like that because it shows something real. Life, like she is not comfortable when she sees Tori. She starts to have a panic attack.
Yeah, and to your point, like it also shows the ramifications mentally on someone. Like we forget that bullying is not just a physical altercation. Like for so long, that's how bullying was looked at. Like bullying was only someone pushing you around into lockers and stuff like that, but people forget like there's an actual mental ramification for things like that. And so for them to deal with it that way, I thought it was really smart, to be honest, because we forget like teenagers are as susceptible to dealing with real life trauma in the same way that anyone else is, but because they're young, people want to write off their issues. And so I was glad that Sam could be a vessel for kids who have been terrorized or have been through stuff like that, and we don't see a lot of that in media. And so it was kind of not the worst thing to have a character, especially the daughter of the hero of this story, if you will, that is dealing with something that even her parents don't realize is like rattling inside of her brain.
Brian?
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree. I think, was it a little over the top, just a little bit, but not enough to like actually like alter your feelings toward it, because that's a real thing. Like, I mean, I've seen the kids at school, like they get into a fight and they're afraid to be around those people or their friends. And so, yeah, I mean, that part is absolutely um, true. I think it's funny. The thing that made me laugh was like, I felt like she had some X-Men powers where she like touches stuff and like immediately like gets the memory. But yeah, no, I didn't mind it. I mean, it's something that people go through. I mean, if you saw your friend fall from the second story thing and break his back, you're probably gonna just not sit there and like zone out, but you're gonna imagine and see the person falling doing that every single time you walk by the staircase. So I mean, yeah, I think that was handled pretty well.
So before we get to the Okinawa stuff, because that's kind of like the next big thing that happens outside of the first couple episodes. At this point, Robbie is very, not used as much as he was in the second season. He's, obviously he's in juvie, and we're going through this process. But before that, they're kind of on the hunt for him, right? We're searching for Robbie because he disappeared. He's on the run. He stole a car from LaRusso Autos, and we get this really cool buddy cop episode between Johnny and Daniel, which was incredible. It doesn't end well, obviously, but we get this really cool stuff between the two of them. We see Robbie's mom as well, and then obviously Robbie has ended up being captured and put in juvie. This episode was probably my favorite up until the Okinawa stuff, because we all knew that it was heading towards this Johnny Daniel thing at the very end of the season, and this was like a small tease of it. Plus, the two of them together, even though they hate each other, they have really good moments together. Like the whole Johnny throwing stuff up and trying to catch it, and like the music and the narcotics cop stuff and everything like that. I thought it was brilliantly done, and the fight obviously inside the shop was incredible as well.
I 100% agree with you, and I think that some of the strongest episodes of the series are the ones between Johnny and Daniel. Like, we've seen time and again, every season's had some sort of episode. It was usually towards the end that really focused on their relationship and them like trying to repair it, trying to get past this petty feud that has lasted for 30 years. And this one is specifically because it put Robbie kind of in the middle of everything. And that for both of them, obviously Johnny is actually his father, but for Daniel, who wants to try to put him on the right path, like forcing themselves to work together. And it was just kind of fun. It had that like 80s flair. Kickstart My Heart playing through a car was just so brilliant.
Nodding their head.
Yeah, nodding their head. And these dudes fucking love
Don't Touch My Radio.
Motley Crue, because again, Hot Tub Time Machine, same people. Motley Crue was a huge part of Hot Tub Time Machine, so that was kind of fun for me. But I thought this was great and very needed, because the one thing that this season did more than anything is, we're going to get to it, but they did the thing. They did the thing. We were all waiting for that thing, and they did the thing. They fucking did the thing. And so this episode was like such a important part of the thing happening.
Season 2, yeah. Jake. Season 2.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I loved it. But it's cheesy. Let's be honest. It's real cheesy what they're doing, and like you would call the cops and be like, "Look, I'm missing a van. Can you go pick it up?" The kid that freaking But it was fun to watch. I had an exciting time watching it. I physically got mad when Daniel called the cops on Robbie. That kind of pissed me off, because I'm like, bro, you don't do that. You talk to him first and then say, hey, let's go turn yourself in. Let's take you to the police station and turn yourself. You don't call the cops and then sit there and wait for them to show up. So I blame Daniel on that one. I do blame. He should have never done that. That was a bad move on his part. But it was good. It was a good episode. I loved it. I love the cheesiness. I was fine with it. The fight scene was hilarious. But it also too, they tied in how much they don't get along in that fight scene, because then they start fighting. Johnny starts to take it far. Daniel's like, stop it, and they start beefing a little bit, and then Johnny throws some truth at him. Miguel wouldn't be in the hospital if you didn't teach my son how to do karate, but because of you, he's in the hospital. And so, That was fun. It like I said, I loved it. It was a little cheesy, but I loved it. It was fine. I was cool.
I love the Tango and Cash vibe, like they said.
Me
They
too.
actually used Tango and Cash, and it actually was a very apt description because of how they were doing each other the whole time. But again, yeah, of course, there's some cheesy moments. But I like again how it does connect to the end of the episode? Like it was almost like a teaser of the end of the season in a way. But you have to have that little moments here where we see the beginnings of it, even if it's not quite there yet. This is what we're just showcasing probably what season 4 is going to help hopefully be like a little bit more too. But yeah, it was a great moment, and I think you have to save Robbie at that point. It was good to not have a lot of Robbie until that point because you make him the MacGuffin for a little bit. When you do see him, it's definitely you're like, okay, he's got the haircut. He's the one that's changed a little bit. He's the one that's different, and we got to see how his development went into. I mean, I think Robbie's going to be the most important character to a degree.
Probably. I'd probably say so. Yeah.
He is at this point, as much as people thought maybe Miguel, maybe be Hawk, he's going to be the Anakin kind of character in the story at this point. That's what we're fighting over.
I hope he's not. I want him to stay evil.
Real quick,
He ain't
I want
staying evil.
to Jake Tato's comment about Amanda LaRusso.
Agreed.
I was going to
Agreed.
say Courtney Hengler is like an unsung hero of this show and does not get enough credit for how good she is because she's consistently the voice of reason between two males who have not let go of shit for 30 years, which is there's another line that she has towards the end of the season where she's like, so have the boys told you about the whole like karate dojo battle for the soul of the valley situation? And another character is like, excuse me, what? Like, Amanda is the best, and we stand for
She's
Courtney
had some great
Hengler here.
one-liners. Yeah, she was.
Yeah.
No,
She's the most
remind
like.
me. Go ahead, Brian. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say she's the most real. I
Yes.
think. And like true to like how a normal person would act with all this nonsense that's going on, and I think that's why we love her a little bit more because you're just like, she's the normal one. She's the one that is like stupid fucking karate. This is like I'm tired of this crap. Like, and so I think
Even going to slap Kreese, I think she would do that.
yeah,
Even like, I
absolutely.
believe that.
I believe that too.
Yeah.
Very realistic. Getting caught up in that situation. Absolutely. Mama Bear.
Remind me. I think it was in the first 3 episodes, but there's the situation where Daniel goes to Cobra Kai and Kreese is there.
That's
And
like
how
the first
much-
or second episode.
Yeah.
It's the first or second episode. But how much you like really get hate to Kreese because some of the stuff that he said, you're like, you're a fucking asshole.
Yeah.
Because
Well,
he says, I wish that little bastard was here. That one, I was like, oh. Then he says the whole thing. Oh, you know what they say? You know, there's no such thing as bad student. And then like you're like, oh shit, he just brought that one out. But then you do a situation with when he deals with Tori when he takes care of that manager.
Mhm.
You're like, I hate this guy, but you know what? I'm kind of glad he did that.
There's like moments for I'll say this, like there's moments for Kreese where you're like, you really kind of want him to turn. He's never going to. Like that's not who he is. But there's little moments where you're like, he could have been human. He
Well,
really could
and-
have.
Not to
And
mention
to what you're saying, PJ, in this season specifically, because of his flashbacks.
Yep.
Those
Because of his
Really?
flashbacks.
Can I
Really?
talk about that real quick?
Yeah,
because
let's talk about it.
because that very first flashback, number one, we see Miyagi's car.
Yes.
The
Yes.
pull up. And the brilliance of this sequence is that the dude who gets out of the car is acting just like Kreese, exactly what you expect Kreese to be.
Well, that's his son.
And-
That's
Yeah,
his
that
real
was
life
his
son.
son.
Oh,
That was
right,
his
yeah.
real life
Yeah.
son.
So it
And
makes
also-
it real. It throws
Yeah.
you off because you're like, oh yeah, that's probably
I,
Kreese.
for a second, I was like, the character can't be his son, you guys. That's very confusing. And
But-
then I
but
yeah.
also behind the scenes, that actor played Kreese during the fight scene with Johnny and Daniel.
Right. And but it's so good because the flip is that Kreese is actually like the dude who's being bullied in the sequence. And you realize that Kreese has been here and he's watched people do this to him. And that's why he's so fucked up. And obviously, as the show goes on, we learn even more why he's fucked up. But like, it was such a nice movie.
Jake called that when we were watching that.
Oh my
Or was
God,
it Max?
I was like, no, don't do it. Don't do it.
The cutaway of that where he goes to clip and then
And
it
then
cuts
the
to
hot dog?
Miguel, with the hot dog cutting through the hot dog was brilliant. Mwah.
I love the flashbacks. That honestly was probably like, I don't know if I want to see my favorite part, but like I've always wanted to know, like, why is he so stuck in his way as evil? Like, we see people waver and whatnot, but he is just downright evil to the core. And so, like, I've been wanting to see that. And so that whole thing was done perfectly. And then the ending, how we find out the name, I loved it. Loved
You know what?
it.
And also
Flashback.
too, it actually helps understand Terry Silva, because you realize at that point when they were in Vietnam of how scared he was and all this stuff. And then after that situation, now he changed. And you see in Karate 3 how he's like just this, dick, and he's doing all this, this real shady stuff because he was in a situation that got somebody actually killed. So he, in his mind, he's like, I'm never going to be like that again. I'm never going to be scared to do stuff. I'm just going to do it. And so that actually, I think that's one thing that it sets up is that mentality of Terry and Kreese and how their relationship is, because they try to throw us off, and they're like, you're thinking the long hair guy. Oh yeah, that's Terry. And then he gets killed, and you're like, wait a minute. And then you realize that the other guy was actually Terry, and that was brilliant writing right there, because a lot of people did not think. A lot of people did not. As soon as I saw the guy, I was like, oh yeah, that's Terry. We know who that is. And then when he gets killed, I'm like, wait, what? What just? And then they go, shut up! You see, you got him killed. So Terry Silva, and they're like, oh shit, that's him. Okay. Mm-hmm. And so then I thought that was amazing writing right there.
Vietnam clearly broke Terry. Like, when you get to Karate Kid Part 3, dude is like off his rocker. Like, he is not mentally well. And so I felt like the way that they dealt with that in this was brilliant, because he was so like, the prison sequence and stuff with him sitting in the cell just like rocking back and forth and just like totally broken after he came back, like, you could tell he was fractured. And that's the moment, I think, as you're watching that split is the thing where his mind goes a different direction. So when you see him in 3, like, it's understandable why he is the way he is.
Exactly.
Yeah, I like the two. I did like the sequences. I thought it was the first time that really it took me out of the universe just a smidge, because we'd never seen this kind of flashback before. All the flashbacks had been like to the movies and everything else. But once you got past that, once you got through the time where you realize who it is, it was great. It was well done. I really loved everything about it. It showed it. We said before, Kreese is the Emperor. You don't really get to try to humanize the Emperor too much, but I think it's a nice touch to try to do just a little bit, just to pull the rug out, because it's going to make us care more. Because we're going to have that thing where we're like, come on, we almost want him to turn, but he's not going to. It's a little bit of tug on the emotions that I like. It's better to have a little bit of human element to it. So I appreciate what they're doing with that.
Agreed. Okay, so at this point, we get all these moments in the first couple episodes. Let's shift gears to Okinawa, because this is the big chunk of this season that kind of shifted the tide for a lot of things that are happening at this point. Countering this whole stuff in Okinawa with Daniel, we also get the fight at the arcade between Cobra Kai and Miyagi-Do, which we can definitely talk about. But I do want to talk about Okinawa because Daniel went there specifically for their business. He went there to go talk, try to get a deal with the car dealership to get their business back on track. Didn't work out. And he's like, you know what? I'm going to go back to somewhere that I haven't been in a very long time. And we get the great appearances of both Kumiko and Chosen. They've come back. They're in here for these next 2 episodes, and how much meaning these 2 characters give to Daniel was really just done so well in these scenes between these actors. What they were able to capture, the emotion they were able to bring, and the meaning behind it all is very, very strong. Obviously, the stuff with Kumiko, but also Chosen, the flashbacks of Karate Kid 2 and that fight between the 2 of them.
And the little girl he saved.
Yeah, the little girl he saved, which obviously was a pivotal thing. You're right, good call. And then everything with Miyagi-Do, the different side of Miyagi-Do that Daniel didn't know about, what Chosen was able to teach him. Very, very cool stuff. I love those moments between him and Chosen when they're fighting and he's kind of teaching him these things, and Daniel's getting his ass kicked, which is very cool because Chosen's kind of been like melding in this for like a very long time, where Daniel's been away from it all. So what did everybody think about this? Brian, why don't you start us off?
I loved it. Because like I didn't think that they would go so far into it. Like they went pretty heavily deep into the second movie with bringing back some pretty important people. And I remember either Jake, you or Max was like, how are they going to get, like, how are they going to get to the places they're supposed to be? Like, what's the point? And then it kind of just slowly made more sense while it was going. And just, I love that they even went as far as to do the honk thing. And just like, even that was just like, they paid so much homage to that whole entire movie, the series, and just like they are using every single character that had some bit of importance into those movies' story and reusing them to make this new story better. I mean, even to the point where making the village into a strip mall type thing, like, because it wouldn't make sense if it was still an old village. I mean, nowadays everything's getting changed to crazy stuff, and even she made a joke about it, saying we even have a Jersey Mike's, not just Subway. And it's just like that, just the subtle like draw of everything from the first couple, from the movies, to propel this story forward. I loved it, and it made sense for this story too. And it wasn't just all right, how are we going to get these characters to show up? What can we do to just fit them in, kind of be like, hey, look, it's these characters. No, it's more than that. They're using these characters to make this story go forward, and it's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant how they did it.
Yeah, look, I was a little worried when they had originally said that they were going to go back to Okinawa, because the show has so heavily been based inside the valley. Like, I was afraid that it was going to feel real forced for Daniel to leave Los Angeles and go overseas, but the way that they built it into, Tommy was trying to take over the dealership, and he had to go to the actual like car manufacturer to try to win back their business, was like a brilliantly small thing that set him on a path that ended up being so personal. And the moment that it all kind of started, he gets to Okinawa, and it's not what he remembered it being. And then just to see him sit there, and to see Chosen again, to see Kamiko again, like the moment he sees her and she's doing the dance and he realizes it's her, like I started to get chills, because I was like, holy shit, like everything fit within the confines of it. Never felt forced. It was like the right move, and the story beats were so similar to when Miyagi went back and he had left his own girl. And so now Daniel comes back, and it's the same thing, because he wanted her to come back with him. And so for him to go back, and she hasn't gotten married in the same way that I can't remember the character's name from part 2. I'm sorry, but who Miyagi was supposed to be with, and they have a very similar conversation. Why didn't you get married? Well, you left, and no one else came around. There was no one else. Like I liked the parallels, and again, to something we said earlier, that's kind of the point. Like Paul brought it up. He doesn't want to be Mr. Miyagi, but now he's realizing, wait, maybe I am Mr. Miyagi. Like maybe I am living this version of that life, and I wasn't prepared for it. And Yuki, thank you. It just works so well, man. Like it at least for me, I thought it was really great. And again, the stuff with Chosen and the duality of that kind of holding on to that feud, but then it going away like right after everything. That kind of nature of what it meant versus his relationship with Johnny was very interesting.
I also felt one of the coolest things about the whole Okinawan thing was that we got to see, I mean, Chosen was obviously the Johnny Lawrence of Karate Kid Part 2. Like, that was the antagonist and everything else. We know what happened after Johnny Lawrence gets his ass kicked by Kreese. We see now, years later, he didn't have a father figure at that point. He was someone who was left on his own. That's where he ended up. You almost expected, not that he expected, but it's like, is Chosen the same way? We left Chosen. He was a dick, too, at the end.
Yeah.
But we remember that he had Sato still. When we left Karate Kid Part 2, Sato had learned his honor. He was a very honorable man. He was his uncle. So he had that father figure. So it just, even though we didn't see it, when the turn happened, you realize the Chosen has matured in so many different ways. It just made so much sense. It was such a beautiful like mirror of what Johnny could have had if Johnny had me a father figure to work him through his immature side at the beginning. And that was one of my most beautiful moments. But the honk thing, of course, it was like something that it's
So
like,
good.
Could they do it? Should they do it? Yeah, they really should, because it works so well. It works so well.
Yeah.
But seeing him like interact with the understandable Sato Miyagi Do thing, he has secrets that even Daniel doesn't know because of their connection. Getting another way to bring Miyagi back into the universe. You're still learning from Miyagi through Chosen, and of course through what's her name? I'm sorry,
Yuki.
Yeah, Yuki. Yes, and the letters and everything else.
Yes, the letter.
And those moments that bring Miyagi back. The only nitpick I had was, I think actually somebody mentioned in the chat, it was a little convenient that Yuna now is going up to work for the car dealership that Daniel has to go back to.
That's what I was gonna.
I'll say this though, like in a way, because of how they built up, like everything in Okinawa changed. So it kind of didn't bother me in a way. Like it would be so easy to be like, oh, that's convenient. But because Okinawa changed like overnight for a lot of them, I almost was able to be like, well, they make it a point. Like everyone started working, everyone started getting jobs. And so I was kind of able to be like, is it convenient? Sure. But I wrote it off so quickly because they also had other dialogue where I was like, it's fine.
Yeah. At the end of the day, I was like, it's okay. Because everything else was so perfectly done too. I'm like, a little convenient. That's all right. I'll buy it.
And I was okay with the convenience of that. Like PJ said, I was okay with the convenience. I wasn't upset about it. It was a little convenient, but I was upset. What I loved about the Okinawa stuff was you Paul said, you kind of got to get the backstory of Chosen where he went, because he talks about it. He says after that fight, I was dishonored and I didn't know what to do with myself. And Sato says, look, come back and prove yourself and things will get better. And he did. And Sato left him all his stuff and he tells Daniel, I got to go teach a class. We now know he's teaching and all that stuff. And that was awesome. You got chills from that. But what it also set up was somebody else turning later in the season where he did something that he was not proud of and then realized I screwed up. I really screwed up. And now I need to make amends for it, which I love that because that you saw, because they set it up and then later in the last couple of episodes, you see that and you go, okay. And you believe it. I mean, it was real quick for that person in the end to switch, but you believe it. You go, okay, yeah, I could see him because he does certain things. And we talked about the laser tag thing, and I'm talking about Hawk, where when he broke Dimitri's arm, which I didn't think they're gonna go there, but they fucking snapped that thing.
Yeah.
You know, he snaps that thing. They all leave, and he's looking at him, and he's like, shit, this was my best friend at one point. He was my only friend, and I just snapped his damn arm because these people were telling me to do it. And you start to see that in his head. And someone mentioned in the comments, I think it was ASG, he said once Kreese started doing some of the other stuff, he started to feel uncomfortable with what Kreese was doing. And I totally agree. And that's where that change started. But Chosen was because there's some great liners where he goes to get the drink and Daniel goes, he tried to kill me. He tried to kill you. What is he doing there? She's like, well, people change. You're like,
that was a long time ago.
No, that was a long time ago. But it's, and then Chosen shows him like, look, I screwed up, but that doesn't mean and I think that's an underlying theme in this thing. Your past, even though you screwed up in the past, does not mean that it should be your whole life.
Yeah,
if
it shouldn't.
You screwed up. If you can make amends for it, then you should be forgiven and be the opportunity to move on. There's some things obviously we know that you can't move on from. That we won't get into that. But if you make a mistake, if you own up to your mistake, people will forgive you over time, and you just move on. You move on, and you learn from your mistakes. And I think that is one of the things that we learned. And Chosen really showed that. I love that when they were fighting. I loved, and then at the end, the bow, when they bow to each other in front of the thing, that was beautiful. That was awesome. That gave me chills. And then he hands them the scroll, and then they bow, and he takes off. And then, like I said, it was a little convenient with the little girl was the one that's the vice president. But you know what? That's fine. I'm cool with that. it didn't take me out of the show.
Can
You
we
know,
also-
it was like, oh yeah, I remember her.
Can we also point out, like, I loved the Miyagi secret where he was afraid to teach Daniel some of these defensive moves that were also like offensive type moves, because as we saw with Daniel at a young age, Daniel would flip pretty quickly. Like,
He was aggressive at times.
He was aggressive, and so he didn't want to teach him that stuff because he might hurt someone. And so Daniel had to come a long way in order to learn any of that, and for Chosen to be the one who taught him that was really kind of great, because as we saw, Chosen was the same way. Chosen was ready to kill Daniel at a moment's notice at any time in Karate Kid Part 2, and he had to learn to work through that. And so for Daniel to finally come back and to learn these new things where it's like, if someone wants to wage war against you, you dismantle them in the way that they can't wage war now. Like, I thought that was such a brilliant little, like, inclusion that just worked.
It's the perfect reason. It's the perfect reason. They're dismantling their enemy so they don't have to fight the war. It's the perfect reason. I do have a question before we move on. The scroll that Chosen handed Daniel, is that the secret to that move, or is that something completely new that we've never seen before?
I think it's the secret to the move.
I think it's secret to the move. Also.
I think so too.
I think now that you bring it up, I think it's something different
Because
obviously
Chosen
no
was
strength
teaching
taking.
him those things. That's why I asked.
It might be, but it might be something different. That might be a reason to bring Chosen back in season 4, where he comes with that scroll. It's something different. Can we just say though, the drum technique is not that good? I don't know. I just don't like that technique. Crane technique, great. This other technique you learned, awesome. That drum technique, are you serious? Like, just throw it straight down the middle. He ain't drumming nothing. I don't know, but that's a good question, Jake. That's actually something we need to look out for in the next season. Is that scroll? Because that's actually a very good question.
I hadn't even thought about that, to be honest. Like, I just assumed that when he saw the scroll, that was the same thing. But now you have me wondering.
Okay, so while this is all kind of happening, we also haven't talked yet about the Johnny and Miguel stuff, how their relationship is growing and how Johnny is helping Miguel get back on his feet, literally. Does anybody think that the concert scene might be one of the best things on the show this season?
Goddamn right, because that was one of the first things I texted you when I was like, D fucking Snyder. We had Twisted Sister in the fucking Cobra Kai. Are you kidding me? Yes! I love Twisted Sister. I love D Snyder, so that made me happy.
I love that he was dangling.
My first band that I ever called my favorite band before I discovered Queen, Twisted Sister, was the one that I thought.
I love that.
And so I saw D Snyder and I'm like, this is hitting me everywhere. The right spots. I love this sequence.
It's so good.
I love when he was dangling the Playboy from like 19 whatever and
88.
like it's that he's like
pole.
yeah. He's like, we have the internet. He's like, that's the thing. It's just it's
better on the page.
Yeah, it's better on the page.
Yeah.
This is all the tastiest babes of 1988.
Yeah.
You know what I really liked about this whole thing with Johnny and Miguel is, if you really think about it, they did rush how quickly he was able to start rehabilitating.
I think
But
this
then-
took was like a 6-month time span. I don't know about you guys.
Maybe.
Dimitri broke his arm and then he was healed.
Yeah. I was like, wait, what happened?
It was like a long.
Fast and loose with the time frames. Like
Yeah.
They did. But with Miguel, what I loved is he got it back quick, but then when he tries to start training, he can't do it. He starts having issues, and I actually liked that. I thought there was going to be like, all right, he comes back and he's just going to be able to do what he did before, and he wasn't. And I loved that. I love that. But we saw that Johnny's training methods are not. He's lighting his foot on fire. He puts him in a headlock. Lights his foot on fire.
That was amazing. Lighting his foot on fire.
I loved that. Though. It was so good.
But he's trying. But he's trying though, because he cares about this kid. And then it sucks because you had the situation where he steals the thing from his dad, sells it, gets the money to Miguel. The mom sees him, and I forgot to bring that up. They've been doing a lot of bait and switch. The lady tells Miguel's mom, the doctor that came in is here to see about your son, and if you look in the background, she's standing facing. You can't see her face. See her hair, and it's blonde. So you're going, oh, it's Allie. And then she turns around and it's not her. And you're like, wait a minute. I thought Allie was the doctor. Like, what's going on? But it messes up his relationship with Robbie because he's so worried about Miguel because he feels responsible that now he's neglecting Robbie, and that was very emotional because first Daniel snitches Robbie out, then Johnny isn't there for him, but the guy that's there for him is this creepy old man, Kreese. Yeah. And at first Robbie's like, dude, I want nothing to do with you, but he's really the one that's like, hey, I'm here for you. That guy wasn't here for you. He's worried about some other kid. And the other guy that said he was here for you, he lied to you and got you and put you in the situation. And that, I think, really helps Robbie's arc because it's not so far-fetched. Like, no, he had 3 people that cared about him, but one turned his back on him. One cared about another person, and this person is actually trying to show him I care for you and I'm there for you. And that sets up what's down the line. So I like the way they did that, and I like that whole situation.
Actually, but speaking real quick about that whole arc between Miguel and Robbie, can we also just touch on the fact that I love the Bobby appearance there as the not a priest?
Yes.
Like the return of him again, how he kicks Johnny's ass. It just knocks him, like lays him flat out. But you love how he works together. You got to see him work, and he has to help him get with Robbie. It's these small appearances by this character who's just a small character in the original film, but they use him so well again to just further a different little small segment of the story. It's just artfully done. I love that moment.
It's how I feel about everything that they've done so far. Like everything just really ties in really nicely where it shouldn't. Like, let's be real. Fan service is a really weird term that's thrown around a lot because a lot of the time it's something that feels forced and isn't like necessary to the story. But this show, similarly to things like Rebels, to things like Mandalorian, things like Clone Wars have showed, fan service is a term that is not necessarily inherently bad. It's about how it's done within the confines of a show. Using small characters and bringing them back in certain parts to help your story is not a bad thing if it fits, and this show continues to do that.
In fact, fan service can be a good thing if it's done that way.
Right, and to the relationship between Miguel and Johnny, like, can we just talk about just how much Johnny has grown since season 1? Like, to this point,
is incredible.
Like, he is putting himself out there to help Miguel and like make him better and really fight for his soul. Like, and that was the thing. He also wants to fight for Robbie's, but he's really like he's put so much time and effort into what's going on with Miguel because the truth of the matter is that Robbie continues to be like a very sore spot for him. They have a very fractured relationship, whereas Miguel, there's no fracture there. Like the first thing that Miguel asked when he woke up was, "Where's Sensei?" He wanted Johnny to be there. Like, unlike Robbie, who the moment that Johnny shows up, he's like, "I don't want you here. You need to leave." And so that relationship dynamic is so different. So he's kind of adopted his own version of a son that actually cares about him in the same way that he does. So everything about this was so good, and I loved the kind of training montage of getting him back on his feet and stuff. Like, every time that something would happen, like if it was the concert and he started moving his foot for the first time, or when when Miguel gets real frustrated with him and he starts being like, "We did all this shit for you because you were trying to impress your ex, and the moment I see my ex, you don't want to talk about it." Mm-hmm. And he goes, "Hey, look." And he's standing. Like, and, Johnny's not holding the rope anymore. And you realize that Miguel's standing again for the first time. Like, it was stuff like that where it was like, Johnny knew what he was doing. He had figured him out. He had figured out that if he frustrated him and flustered him enough, he'd get him to react in a way that would get him powerful again. And so it just works for me, man. Their relationship is beautiful.
I agree.
Great. I like the fact that he's changing, but still being this idiot trapped in this time period, doing stupid stuff.
The Facebook stuff and the photos.
Oh, it's amazing.
Because it's working so perfectly with that character, and it's making it so enjoyable in the way he just, even like subtle things, like what was from last season? Send it to the internet.
Yes, send it to the internet.
Something like that. It's just so like.
Or this season where he tried to turn the computer in and said it needs new batteries, but he doesn't realize it charged.
Again, he figures it out and he goes, "Son of a bitch."
Yeah, he goes, "You told me it was wireless."
Yeah,
so good.
It's just like those little things. His character is growing, but like it's it's so funny that he's still kind of staying that same character you fell in love with in season 1. He's just like growing in his own way, and it's so fun. I feel like half of the laughs come from his stuff where it's just silliness, and it's just like, but at the same time, you can totally see people doing that. Like my mom would 100% be the computer scene, like it's like that type of stuff. So I love that his character is so funny when it comes to that type of stuff. But then you also have the emotional stuff that he really,
I'm no quitter.
it's so good.
So
but
good.
I mean, he plays both sides so well. You still see that like aggressive person sometimes from the originals. Then you see the emotional stuff because he truly cares about Miguel and doing the right thing to him. And then, but he's still that same idiot that does these things that you just can't stop laughing at. And I love the way his character just improves every time.
Shug, you're on mute.
Shug, you're muted, yeah.
Maybe? No.
You might have to leave. It happened yesterday in one of my shows.
Refresh your StreamYard, Shug. Refresh your StreamYard.
We'll come back.
All right, real quick. I'll pop this up here. Terry Silver and Mike Barnes for season 4. What do you think their effect on the Valley would be if they came back to Cobra Kai?
Oh, they're definitely coming. At least one of them is coming back.
Terry Silver's definitely coming back. I said before the show, bring me Mike Barnes. But
I would probably say it fits more to have Terry Silver because Daniel's battle at this point is with Kreese and
Cobra Kai.
And Cobra Kai, and bringing Mark Barnes in. I understand, but having Mike Barnes, Terry Silver, and Kreese might be a little much compared to Johnny, Daniel, and their kids. So I would probably just say Terry Silver.
I just want to. I'll throw it in and interject. By the way, when I said I want to bring back Mike Barnes, I don't want to. I'm not talking about a full season long thing. I think like 4 episodes or
like an alley situation.
Like an alley situation.
Got it.
That I'm all in for.
I was going to say,
Silver.
I think Mike Barnes is 100% coming back in some capacity. I don't know if it'll be big or small, but I think he's 100% coming back.
I think everyone's coming back.
Yeah, I do too. I really do.
Have so many years, like they're talking about, the writers have so many stories lines.
I think
at
they
this
said
point.
they have like 6 seasons planned.
You could actually have Mike Barnes appear in this season and have another larger role down the line. But
Sean Kanan, the guy who plays him, is still like a very much working actor. It's funny because like as weird as it sounds, like my mom it still does to this day, but she used to watch soap operas all the time around me, and he was a daytime soap opera actor for a long time. So he's stayed in the game. He still works. So there's no saying Mike can't come back, but we all know 100% Terry Silver, he's fucking coming back. Like there's no way he doesn't come back.
Right. I mean, they dropped the thing at the beginning. They actually at the end see it. That's who was calling. Obviously, at the end, obviously, it's. If he doesn't come back, I'd be absolutely shocked.
Yeah.
You guys hear me?
There he is.
There he is. He's back.
Sorry. I don't know what happened. My computer's actually done. No, what I was saying when Brian was saying how stupid Johnny is when he's talking to the guy in the park, he's like, "So I could do karate here for free."
Yeah, that was amazing.
This whole thing, they're like, "Can I get back to my family?"
That was incredible.
Yeah, no, I think William Zabka deserves a lot of credit.
Yeah,
he has been killing it. And him and Ralph Macchio, do they ever freaking age? Like you can see a little bit now on William Zabka. He's getting the lines under his eyes, but Jesus Christ, they don't look good. They don't look old. These guys are what? They're 50.
No, they're almost. 50, right? I think they're getting close. They're in their 50s. I think they're going to be closing in on
crazy.
60.
I remember when they said at one point when somebody said to Daniel about like, when Daniel said, "I'm the same age as Mr. Miyagi was when he trained," I was like, "No, you're fucking not, are you? Really?
Yeah,
you are, aren't you?"
Yeah, 100%, man. And can I just say, I tweeted it yesterday. When this is all said and done, I want someone to give William Zabka an action franchise, like on the big screen, something Taken-esque. Like, I want this dude to keep working, and I think he deserves it. Like, the dude is so good. He does not get enough credit just for how good he is. And, I mean, we'll get to it, but the finale, like, the last 10 minutes of the finale, there's so much emotion in everything that he's doing that I want to see a, like, very raw version of that put on the big screen where he's just, like, killing fuckers for, like, stealing his wife or something.
Yeah,
I like talking about a buddy action buddy comedy, not big comedy, but buddy action.
Yeah, that'd be good too.
That'd be really good.
Jake,
they're
did we
55
talk about
and 59, by the way?
Did we talk about the Cobra Kai dojo scene when they bring in the, when Kreese started to recruit people?
We have not talked about it yet.
Okay.
We can. I was going to say before we get to the finale, we kind of have a few big things to talk about. One is definitely that because that's a pivotal point for Hawk, the character of Hawk. 2, we obviously have to talk about Allie. But 3, and my favorite, we got to talk about Eagle Fang Dojo.
God damn right we do.
Where's the shirt?
Gotta talk.
They're out, bro. They're out.
Are they out?
The Cobra Kai's official store has them. You know how I know? Because I ordered a sweatshirt last night. You know how else I know? Because Jake ordered a headband of it today.
There you go.
So like Eagle Fang, amazing. The worst name of all time, but it fits Johnny Lawrence so perfectly.
I love the part.
So perfectly.
I love the part where he goes, "Eagles don't have fangs." Quiet.
Yeah. Oh, it's so good.
Well, also, then you have I forget his name, or Assface. You have Assface, who has turned into Penis Breath, and he has an extra small shirt on.
Do some more sit-ups.
He's also a little. Is anybody else a little snugged?
So good. But yeah, Eagle Fang in the wind, whatever. But yes, this big scene in Cobra Kai when Kreese brings in all these guys. He's recruiting people from around the valley. He obviously brings in the bully from season 1 up against Miguel, who's one of the big parts in this, but also a number of other athletes from around, and they kind of have this, mano-a-mano competition. If you lose, you're out situation. And that's when Assface loses, and he gets kicked out of Cobra Kai, and that's how he ends up back on Johnny's team. But yeah, this is big for Hawk because Hawk has to face the bullies that bullied him in the first season. Specifically, the Asian gentleman. I don't know his name, but the Asian gentleman was a big part.
Tyler?
Yeah.
Tyler. Is it Tyler?
Tyler. No, it's Tyler.
Kyler. Yeah, it's Kyler.
Correct.
Yeah.
And he doesn't face Hawk. Hawk faces the other one. But
the other one. We'll just call him the other one.
Kyler beats Assface, which is how Assface gets kicked out. And now there's this interesting dynamic
every time.
Yeah. There's this very interesting dynamic there now because Hawk was kind of seen as the guy with Miguel gone. But now these more athletic people are starting to come in, work their way into the creases of Cobra Kai. Shug, I'll go to you first, man. What did you think of this?
Going back to the thing with Samantha, you're going to deal with bullying 2 ways. You're going to be afraid or you're going to be aggressive. And this really shows that other side with Hawk. Because he beats the living shit out of this guy. He's standing there.
Tim.
There you go, Tim. He just beats the crap out of this guy. He's kind of looking at the Kyler, and then he goes, "I want this one." He takes off his thing, and he's like, "Look, I'm going to take you out," and he just gets on top of him and just starts pounding him. I thought he wasn't gonna be able to be redeemed from this, but I like the way they went with it. And even like Kyler, when he looks away from how bad, and then Kreese is like, pick him up, somebody pick him up. Like he beat the crap out of him. I thought it was really good what they did with that. And how Kreese was, you had the flashbacks of him recruiting and then him in Vietnam, and the speech by the guy that was his I don't know, I don't want to say general. Was it a general? Okay,
general,
yeah, the speech that his general was saying as he's looking at these kids and saying the same, he says the same thing to Kyler, like, "I'll turn you into a unstoppable weapon," which is fucked up because the kid's only 16, 17 years old. You want to turn him into a weapon. So it was very cool to see, but it did show how bad influence can influence you, and also too how bully can really influence you, because Hawk saw that. He started having those flashbacks, and he just took it out on this kid. Like he beat the crap out of him, and you can see him get up, and his hands are bloody. Sorry, Captain, his hands are bloody, and all these things. Yeah, like he was in a fight.
Yeah.
He freaking just and the guy's not under there, and it's probably a prop or something, but the way it was shot was like, and then he gets up and he spits on him, like, that was
very visceral.
Yeah, very, very. So I liked it.
Agreed.
Anybody else have thoughts?
I'm just going to echo what they said. It was great. It was the way they had to set up Tyler as they did a great job with Tyler as far as with Hawk. Sorry, as he moved through at the end of the year, they had to lay the groundwork for it well, and they did. It was like small moments. There had a bunch of small moments throughout where like you see it in his eyes. He's not like 100% in, but yet he's not going to turn too quickly because he still feels like what got him there. He's not someone who wants to change quickly because he likes how he became strong from when he was this weak person in the first night. Now he's a strong person. He wants to be the guy, but he sees it all kind of like unfolding slowly, bit by bit. So then when he does turn at the end, where I will say it was a tweak fast in terms of like, because he kind of was all in until also this moment where he's just like switched it away, and I wasn't sure it was perfect for it, but I still overall thought it was at least late enough that I wasn't too upset with it. So
I think that the only reason it ends up working is because they have that sequence where Johnny actually confronts him and the others in the high school. If that scene doesn't exist, because there's a moment when he confronts Hawk and Hawk is thinking about it. You can see it, and there's a moment he smirks. He straight up smirks when he realizes that Johnny's coming back to do this thing.
It's at the school when William Zabka somehow sneaks his way into a high school.
And nobody stops him.
Because he says he knows how to get in and out. Because,
and he calls Hawk. He says, you were a baby's ass before you came to me.
Yeah, soft as a baby's ass. But the other thing is, I don't think we talk enough about that Hawk is his own mirror of Johnny.
Yeah.
Because Hawk is going through the same motions that Johnny went through that you see towards the end of the first movie and at the beginning of the second, where Kreese turns on him.
Right.
And so there's a little bit of that as well, which I've kind of enjoyed, is that Hawk in a lot of ways I think sees himself in Johnny, but if you're like us and you saw it, you're like, oh shit, he really is like him. Like there's little things that are playing out very similarly for those characters.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
All right, let's go ahead and shift gears here. We have two major things to talk about now, and one of them is being at what? Say that again, Brian.
I was just gonna say, I just love the tagline "Bite like an eagle."
That's so ridiculous.
It's on the back of the shirt. It's on. The
I
back
know.
of
That's and
no,
that's
no.
why
The actual merch line. The merch.
Oh,
line.
I know. It says It says like on the sleeve,
it's
"Bite
amazing.
like an eagle," and you're like, oh my god.
Okay, let's talk about the big part here, because this leads right into how the finale ended up. But Allie Mills makes an official return, and what a way they do this. They have, what is it, episode 9, I want to say it is, where they're starting off. We're seeing it's Christmas now.
Yeah, episode 9.
Hey, Cobra Kai is officially a Christmas movie. It's
Goddamn right it is.
Christmas series.
He literally said this during it. He goes, "That's what I'm watching every year around Christmas." And Gabby's like, "No."
I said that. I tweeted the same thing. I was like, "Welcome to my permanent Christmas rotation."
Yeah. But no, the episode starts, in a very different spot. We go into this house and we see this older woman. We don't really know what's happening. All of a sudden, the camera pans and we see Elizabeth Shue is just sitting on the couch. Allie Mills officially made her return to the Karate Kid universe. And then we get a really cool episode between her and Johnny, where they go to lunch. They kind of reconnect a little bit. After Johnny had just good relations with Miguel's mom, which was a big deal.
Good relations?
Good relations.
Okay.
They had good relations.
He tapped it. He tapped it.
But obviously Allie played a big part into this, because it wasn't just her coming back for fan service or her coming back to be a girlfriend or something for Johnny, but she was the connective tissue between Johnny and Daniel. Yep. She was the one to bring them together. It was her whole purpose to come back, was to make them realize that there's not two sides to everything, there's three sides, and none of their sides are actually working, and that they need to come together to kind of come to a solution to the problem they have. And it's a big deal because it was the pivotal part of this season, but also the show. And like we had said earlier, they did the thing we've been wanting them to do.
Yes, they did the fucking thing. And
it's all because of Allie.
We got to say, too, we have to shout out The Boys, of all things, for this happening, because Dan Trachtenberg was a director on season 1 of The Boys, and he had been watching Cobra Kai, and he went up to Elizabeth Shue, and he goes, "So you're going to be in it, right?" And she goes, "What do you mean?" And he goes, "You have to be in it." She had no real intention on even coming back.
Oh, thank God.
And Dan Trachtenberg was like, "You have to be on the show." And so if it wasn't for the fact that they had put her in The Boys, there's a chance that she may not have come back.
Right.
So number one, shout out to the boys for making this happen. But dude, holy shit, was Elizabeth Shue has obviously continued acting, and we all really like her when she pops up in things. But she was so great being back as Allie. I loved this whole episode where they spend time together, and the whole storyline that Johnny is deciding he needs to see her, and she similarly does too. And they kind of mimic the date that she has with Johnny or with Daniel in the first movie.
Yeah.
And they have this whole situation where they're kind of feeling each other out, and then it ends with her kind of going, we can't live in the past. Like, it was great to be 17 for a day, and Johnny realizing you also have to look forward, and you have to move like you have to look for now, and you can't keep looking backwards, which was so great because it also means like he hooked up with Miguel's mom, because the truth is we've all been waiting for that too. For 3 seasons, the chemistry between them has been off the charts, and you've been waiting for that moment. It finally happens the night before, because we didn't even talk about the fact that they saved the tournament. But
oh shit,
yeah, we do have to talk about that.
That's
but
a big part. Yeah.
But because all of that happened, Allie also, not only does she get Johnny and Daniel to finally come to terms with, there's your truth, there's his truth, and then there's the real truth. Like, there's what you think, and then there's what really matters. But she also pushes Johnny to finally get out of his own way and turn things around. Like, he keeps talking about he's not good at the boyfriend thing, he's not good at the relationship thing, and she's like, get the fuck out of your own way. Like, you can do this.
Right.
So it was a really, really great thing, and I thought Shue just fit in so well. Like, it's like a well-worn glove, man. It just fits, Like, that's how it felt having her back.
Yeah, I loved the lead up to that.
Yes,
with the emails and the messaging.
Yeah,
it just he wrote a whole thing and then
wrote 10 pages worth, and he goes, "I'm good. What about you?"
Yeah,
yeah. He had that one that was so I'm a sensei and these kids need me, and it's such a beautiful message, and then he fucking deletes it, and you're like, what are you doing? Yeah. Come on,
shooting the photos around town with Miguel with the angel.
Yeah. The one with him reading the book, then he tosses the book in the trash can.
And then when they go to the restaurant, even simple things like when they went to the restaurant, and he's like, I'm gonna order da-da-da, and she's like, I want a cheeseburger. I want that.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah. No, I love the stuff with Elizabeth Shue. At first I thought they shoehorned her in, and I was a little bit oh man, I wish she would have been around a couple more episodes. Then I rewatched it and I go, you know what? Nah, it's good. I'm fine with it, because maybe it was just a personal decision. I thought I wanted her for more episodes. They didn't need to be. You're right, PJ. She said there's 3 truths. There's your truth, and then there's the real truth. And we got the real truth. We got the backstory of why, even because there was reports that she was upset that she got written out of season 2, not season 2, episode Karate Kid 2. And she talks about, you saw me hugging that guy at UCLA, and you got pissed off about it, And so I was good with it. I was good with it, and I think she did a great job, and it's set up for what the ending that got me so emotional about, which we'll talk about. But yeah, then we didn't talk about the saving the All Valley tournament and all that stuff, but it was great. Her episode was great, and I don't think we need to see her anymore. I think we're good.
I don't think so either.
I think we're good.
I think she might come back, but I don't think we need it. That would be my personal opinion. Yeah,
she was perfect in this. It was so perfectly crafted. It was a danger that they were. It was so. I kind of watched them they're going to create the love triangle, aren't they?
That's what Jake thought too.
They're going to have the whole Allie and Miguel's mom. I didn't want to see it, and I thought it was contrived. And then when you got there, and they go out, they date, everything was leading up to that. And then they had that moment. I'm like, that is so absolutely perfect. Yeah. That she's not. They're going to totally turn that off on its side, and she's just there for that time. They realize it. They had that moment where Johnny had to go back in order to move forward in a way, really realize where his place is and everything else. It was so refreshing not to bother with that love triangle, because that would have been such a cliche thing that they shouldn't have done. And that's what tells me how good they are, because they realize it too. They're like, nope, we'll tease it. We'll let you think that. And then we'll say, nah, not gonna happen.
Yeah,
really.
100%.
There's one reason why Allie didn't want to date, Johnny. It's because he drove a '93 Dodge Caravan. Let's be real.
That's probably
Yeah,
it. That's the
exactly
truth.
why.
Okay, let's talk about them saving the tournament, which we totally skipped over. It's a big deal. Big thing that happened. The city had canceled the tournament because of the school fight. No karate in the city anywhere near anybody. And so we get this city council meeting where Johnny, Daniel, Kreese are all there, and then Daniel's wife gets kicked out in the best fashion ever. She is great in this scene. But also, it's pivotal because Sam and Miguel come together and they explain why it's so important, why these kids need this, why kids of who are not popular or who are being bullied need this, or why their senseis mean so much to them and the teachings they have if they don't have a father, or just in general. It's a very powerful moment. It's what the whole season kind of, a lot of the season was hinging on this moment because the tournament is a big deal in the Karate Kid universe. And if we weren't going to have a tournament anymore, what the hell is going to happen next? So, PJ, I'll start with you, man. What did you think of this city council meeting?
Super important, super necessary, and it was really nice to have it where it came down to the kids. Like the smartest thing that happened is that Kreese is the first one who goes up. Johnny and Daniel start bickering with him essentially in front of everyone, and the city councilwoman is like, oh, I'm sorry, council person, as they point out a couple times in the episode. But they, she tells him, you need to sit down, and she's going to outright cancel it. And we finally have this moment where Miguel comes out, and he's like, look, you guys can't keep sweeping shit under the rug. Like, violence and bullying is a real thing, no matter how much you want to pretend it's not. Like, just because you want to get rid of karate is not going to help the situation. And this is like the way you should want this, because this is like where we can put our aggression and our frustrations and our anger into a tournament versus taking it out each other in a school. Like, instead of us fighting in a school, at least we have a place where we can do it and it can be controlled. I thought that was really, it's such a great sequence, and I love seeing Sam and Miguel coming so strongly into doing it. And one other thing that I do want to point out that we really didn't talk about at all is that Sam and Miguel continue to be one of the best relationships in the show. Like, as fractured as it's been, the beauty of this, like, Romeo and Juliet style version between Miyagi-Do and Cobra Kai, and then Sam and Miguel both seeing each other for being each other, not for the dojos that they are a part of, even though the parental units see only the dojo, has been so nice and so refreshing, which led to like that great moment where Miguel and Daniel hang out in Mr. Miyagi's car.
Yes.
And
I like that moment.
It's so good. And again, that was like the lead up to, there's different truths to everything that lead to one truth. Like, everyone has their side of the story, but ultimately there's one truth to the situation, and maybe we need to get out of our own way. So all of that is kind of leads to this moment, which I thought was really, really special and really, really unique. Like, I wasn't anticipating it, to be honest, and it just works well, and I'm really glad to see the kids get to be the ones who are saving things. Like, it could have easily just gone to Daniel and Johnny, because so much of this season is bent on, like, telling their story, but then they got to be the front and center on, like, this is why we need this thing.
Yeah, I would definitely echo that as well. I think that the idea of well, first of all, let me say, when I'm watching the council scene, I was wondering if we're going to end up having to go Rocky 5 here, and we're going to have the unsanctioned street tournament, karate tournament. But we didn't go there. Thank goodness. But I do like exactly the same thing PJ says. It's these shows can, when you do heavily weigh nostalgia, you want to see Danny, you want to see Johnny, you want to see how that works. Therese, they take center stage, like it's like the big three there. But then you have to show how important they are, and it's the fact that it's Miguel and Sam at the end. It's a beautiful moment, and again, it does highlight where the relationship has gone and where the relationship between everybody has gone. Miguel with Johnny, Miguel with Daniel. It's a beautiful scenario, and it really makes everybody important in the series. There's not a weak link in the series, really, and even the characters go. All the big characters mean something to the story. You need them all. You need them to have this interplay. It's like a big puzzle. It doesn't work if you take some of them out. So I think it's just a good example of all that.
Real quick, to Darren in the chat, did they mention what happened to Aisha? Yeah, they actually explained, like, right at the beginning that her family
First episode.
moved. Yeah, her family moved because of the fight and took her out of school. It was at the same time. And they put her in private school. And, like, we also found out, because you probably noticed Stingray's not in it. Stingray's been hit with a restraining order. He's not allowed within 500 feet of kids anymore. So sad. So that was like a whole thing. Any character that was no longer around, they did explain it. It was in dialogue. You just had to be paying attention.
Yeah, for sure. And I forgot.
Not to say
I
you
forgot
weren't
about that.
paying attention, by the way. That was a bad choice of words, but
Just
Wow,
keep it
Call
in
out,
mind.
call out,
Yeah.
right.
Wow,
Jesus.
wow.
Idiot.
I'm an idiot.
PJ, were you really talking to a competitor? That's what I thought you were talking
Wow.
No, I did. Kind of forgot about what PJ mentioned when Daniel and Miguel talk. And the little things that they do in this show, the little comments I love when he says from one All Valley champion to another.
Yes.
Like I laughed. I was like, oh right, and then you think about it. Well, Johnny was too because remember he had won the year before Daniel won. So there's all three of them. So that was I was great with the council meeting scene. Was awesome, and I was cool with it. It was real cool.
Brian?
I just like that the kids were the ones to save it, and not the adults. That was my big thing. Was like the adults can just keep doing stuff, but like it's the kids' story kind of at the end of it. But I mean, yeah, the adults had some influence to it, but the kids were the ones that really drove the point across. And then obviously, Mrs. LaRusso getting kicked out was the best. I love her.
Amazing.
She's so good.
She's so good because she's the real one out of it's literally how parents would act.
All right, let's just get to it. We've been going for an hour and 35 minutes, and we are here. We are finally here. Let's get to the finale.
They did the fucking thing. They did the fucking thing.
Well, first off, what I don't understand is these kids are really trying to kill each other because they throw that motherfucker through the window. Okay, they throw his ass through a window. I felt bad for him. That motherfucker gets beat up. They throw his ass through the window. And Tori's crazy. Let me tell you, high school Suge was in love with Tori because she was crazy.
But now adult Suge is like, get the fuck away from me.
Yeah, no, adult Suge knows a toxic relationship when he sees one. High school Suge would have been like, oh, I'm down to date you. Yeah, they just show up at their house because Miyagi-Do and Cobra Kai or Eagle Fang are like, hey, we need to come together to stop Cobra Kai. Because there was like the incident at the park where all of Cobra Kai showed up. So they're like, all right, we're going
to your point, it's the kids doing this. What a brilliant move.
Yeah. And they're like, we need to come together. So they're like trying to figure out where we're going to train, where we're going to do this. And then they just show up at their house and they just start kicking the shit out of each other. Like, but you saw what like going back to Miguel, he didn't have it anymore. He was having problems. You know, he was the All Valley champion and he's getting beat up by, Kyler, who hadn't really started training, much. We don't know how much training he did, and he's getting the shit kicked out of him. You see Samantha, she's fighting, and all of a sudden she sees Tori, and the PSD starts to come back. Dimitri's trying to defend himself. Mm-hmm. Everybody's just going at it, and yes, it's over the top, because if this really happens, you call the cops, everybody's arrested, none of this shit happens.
Fucking perfect.
But I loved it. Yep. I loved it because they were smacking each other with things, throwing people through tables. I was like, the school one is great. The house one is really good, but I like the school one better. But this house fight was amazing. And then you see the thing with Hawk, and I'll let PJ kind of go from there. But that also, I like that. I like that moment with Hawk when he starts to realize, wait a minute, this is not what I should be doing.
I've been waiting to post this, but how many fucking glass coffee tables is one family need?
Yeah, 100%.
In this kind of fight, put as many as you want.
And to Shug's point, like one of the, I do love the school fight, but the reason I like this one more, and I see Tim, he's like, I'm not a big fan of the over-the-top fights, and he and I have talked about this a lot. Like, he's not a fan, and that's okay. But the reason it works for me better in the house versus the school is because in the school, it's like, look at all the people that are around, and like, you're telling me no one's going to stop it. In the house, there was no adults. So people like showing up at a house party and fighting and shit, that's like a real thing that can happen. Of course, it's way more over the top in this with everyone like having a karate fight. But the reveal with Hawk is so brilliant, and the reason it works for me, it kind of reminds me of all things Spider-Man Homecoming, when Peter gets stuck under all the rubble and he's trying to decide if he can be Spider-Man anymore. There's that moment where he's like, what do I do? And like Hawk is sitting there watching Dimitri get the shit kicked out of him again, and he's already hurt him once and he doesn't want to see his friend get hurt again. And so he starts hearing all the different voices of the people who have been an influence on him. In that moment, he's like, no, like, I'm done with this. And so he, like, charges, and he kicks the two dudes from Cobra Kai, and then he's like, do you want to help me end this? it's just such a great moment. And one of the things I love about Cobra Kai is that it's about like relationships being mended and people trying to be better, and it's such a great moment because throughout the season Hawk is clearly not comfortable with the way Cobra Kai is, and he's Johnny. There's a part of him that's Johnny Lawrence inside that sees the toxicity and sees the frustration and sees the pain. And I saw Hawk's character. Yeah, dude, me too. Yeah. And I saw it in the chat earlier, but someone said they didn't like that Kreese took over Cobra Kai, but I think that's the point. Like, it's always been Kreese's, and like Kreese is the one who created Cobra Kai. So the fact that Johnny was the one who brought it back, he didn't lose it. He realizes now that Cobra Kai was never the answer. And I think that that's what the rest of the characters are seeing too. And that's what makes it so great. Which I guess I'll toss it to PLD because we're going to have to keep going through this thing. But that leads to the big moments. The big moments. The fight happens. So, and where do we go from there?
I do want to, ASG asked. So Daniel, when he walked inside Cobra Kai, he had yelled, "You sent them to my house."
Yeah.
So
he knows.
In there, and then that's why he ended up back at Cobra Kai.
Yeah. Well, also,
but he's got a dealership. He's fine. He'll all get taken care of.
The other thing was there's like literally a line of dialogue where they're leaving the party, and he says to his wife, "Let's go home and get into some trouble." Like he did not knowing, but it was a winky nod that we all knew. They were going to get home, and the house was going to be trash.
Everything in trouble, right?
Yeah.
That fight whole thing did work well. I did like, again, what we said before. I'll echo a little bit that the kids coming together was the key thing, because that's what makes it their story. And obviously the whole series has been built up about how Daniel and Johnny are both a bunch of knuckleheads when it comes down to their rivalry. They can't really put it together. They're going to need help to come together. So they have to have the kids do it. The kids are the ones that are going to have to force the issue, and that's what makes it so brilliant, because the kids are more mature than the adults are, and that's a great moment for me watching that. And the house sequence was great. It was a little much. I was a little scared, like, wow, they're just coming to the house like that. What are the neighbors? There's no neighbors around. They're not hearing or seeing anything. Trust me, I got 911 calls all the time for like a little loud music. This is a fucking brawl and a half going on. There's nothing going on.
Right. But who makes that decision? Like, we're gonna go to their house. Like, I could see POV showing up at LGR. Yeah, I can see C2A showing up POV's house ready to fight over some shit. Like, and you just see, just everybody fighting. But it's who made, like, Tori's nuts, and let me tell you. Suge in high school would have dated her so quick. God, I would have gotten in trouble. Go ahead, Tori.
It was definitely Tori, and that's the one. Like I said, I did love Hawk's turn for overall. The idea that Hawk went along with the whole sequence was a little. That's why if he was ready to turn, the fact that he was willing to go along with the whole house battle was a little much for me. But I got over it quickly enough. It was definitely Tori.
We're the moon of the Shroud.
It was definitely Tori at that point. But it was insane. And they went in there, they started working him over. But yeah, when the turn did happen, and when Miguel finally got back, because you saw it earlier, Johnny made him frustrated. Johnny made him mad. That's when he made that like
motivation.
Motivation. All of a sudden, he's getting his ass again. It's like, all right, it's time to level up, bitches. I'm getting even better now. I can start doing my old shtick a little bit better, and that's what made that turn perfect at the end. And then again, and also at the same time, getting the Tori versus Sam moment, where Sam like comes back into her own after her retraining, so to speak, with the confidence issue and everything else. That was a great little one-on-one. I liked how they went to the other part of the house that nobody else was in, the little dojo area, and they had that little one-on-one for a minute, and that whole thing. It was artfully done. It was well done. I get what Tim says also about, like, it's a little over the top, but again, that's the whole thing. The whole show is a little over the top and a little cheesy, a little much. But as long as it serves everything well, it serves the story, then it works for me, and that worked for me quite well.
As long as everything else is earnest, I'm happy.
I will say to what you just said about them going to the other side of the house to go into the dojo. And the Sam and Tori thing, again, bringing Miyagi back into the fold. It's the picture of Miyagi that brought Sam back to this kind of center of balance that she was able to fight Tori, which is a big deal. The show is very much centered around him and what he means in his teachings, and not just to Daniel, but to her, because we had seen that scene where they went out on the lake, Daniel and Sam, that she had kind of trained under Miyagi at some points with Daniel. So he means as much to her as he does to him as well, and that's a big moment for Sam.
Right.
Yeah.
Brian, what do you think of the house fight before we get into the big?
I love anytime they have fight scenes. Their fight scenes are dope. But I mean, come on, you guys are dangling the carrot.
Okay, let's get
All right.
Playboy.
Okay,
You're
so
dangling
after
the
the house fight-
Playboy.
So Johnny gets back home and he's gonna go confess his love to Miguel's mom. And he walks in and Miguel is just beat to shit. He's like, "What is happening?" And the next scene we see, he's busting into Cobra Kai. He busts into the back room and he's looking at Kreese. And all of a sudden, Robbie turns around, who is now training with Kreese. He is part of Cobra Kai. We have this incredibly emotional sequence between these three, as Kreese puts it, 3 generations of Cobra Kai in one room together. Which is a big deal. Obviously, going forward, Robbie is going to be considered Cobra Kai for the time being. But then we get this incredible fight between Kreese and Johnny, and the back and forth. It's a great tracking shot through the hallway into the main dojo.
If you don't know, Jake, he loves a good tracking.
Yeah, I love my tracking.
As he should, because they're fucking amazing.
I love my
I'm right there. Really
I'm addicted with my tracking shots. But yeah, we get to the main dojo and they're fighting, they're kicking ass, and we see this side of Johnny kicking a little bit where he grabs the weapon. And then Robbie's like, "Don't do it," and he drops it, and he kind of gets back into a little bit of a fold, and then Kreese puts him in a hold, and then Daniel comes in and saves him, and now it's just like, woo!
So
before that, Johnny, me and PLD know this. Johnny commits child abuse and throws his kid into a damn locker, and which was I like that. I'm glad that he didn't hit him. I'm glad that he kind of.
Well, he says he's not. I'm not going to fight you. I'm not.
And he had immediate remorse. He goes, "Oh shit!"
Yeah, so I like that. I like that a lot.
He's like, fuck.
And one thing we need to talk about too, to the point of when Daniel shows up, because Kreese is about to kill Johnny. Like, there's no doubt in our minds he's going to kill him.
Can I just really say how WWF was that moment?
Yeah.
WWE, whatever you want to say. Also, I almost heard if Daniel's son had music that played it, you get your JR in the background. My God, that's Daniel's son.
But the other thing that's important about this moment, I love where your head's at, by the way, is that at the very end of the first episode, Daniel goes back to Cobra Kai, and we didn't bring this up because I wanted to wait till now. And he has a moment with Kreese where he confronts Kreese, and Kreese goes, "It doesn't matter what's going to happen. You and I are destined to have this fight.
It's inevitable.
It's inevitable." And like at that moment, so when Daniel shows up and he goes, "You son of a bitch, you sent them to my house, you attacked my daughter," and he goes, "I told you it was inevitable." And just like that moment where you're like, holy fuck, and Daniel just like, ugh. He just like goes to town, him and Kreese throw each other through a fucking window. And then we see him actually use the move that he learned to dismantle your opponent if they're trying to wage war. And if Sam hadn't been there, I do think Daniel was going to
him and Johnny were on the same page. They had the nod.
They had the nod. They were going to end it. Then and there, it was going to end. One way or another. And then Sam and Miguel show up and stop them. But this moment is so powerful because it was the inevitable fight. And you can tell, like, their way of ending it was ending Kreese.
As it should be. But
yeah.
As it should be.
Yeah. I mean, and don't get me wrong. Is it kind of cheesy that Sam and Miguel show up and then Robbie walks out and they're all... Come on. It is. It's cheesy, but it's so good, though, because they're all standing there. And people pointed out, he goes, "Let's finish this the old-fashioned way." It's like, the old-fashioned way, I called the cops. You didn't try to kill me right now. No, we're gonna wait for the tournament. Like, so it was good, and I loved it. But there is a powerful moment right there because both Daniel and Johnny look at Robbie and they're like, dude, they're like, fuck, we fucked up. We realized we just fucked up, and he's like, both of you leave. And then not only that, you got the Miguel and Sam situation with him because here was the girl that Robbie liked, and here's the guy that beat him in the tournament, and here's the guy that put him in the hospital. So there's that whole dynamic right there. So, like I said, it was good. I liked it. I got goosebumps when it all happened. But the next part is where I really got goosebumps. But that was really good. And that fight, and like I said, when he throws Robbie into the locker, I'm glad that he didn't hit him. And he was remorseful right away. He was like, "Oh shit." and everything like that. There was a little bit, the dialogue from Robbie was a little bit like meh, when he's like, you're my worst enemy, da 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 da. I was like meh, but I was okay with it. I still think that whole sequence was awesome. And like I said before, I don't think they should turn Robbie. I think they should just keep him bad.
I kind of agree with you, to be honest.
I just think they should keep him bad.
Robbie,
no!
Look, I think the fight was incredible. And speaking even to the Robbie and Johnny fight, Johnny not fighting back, and we know Robbie is like, he's a good fighter. He's a good fighter, a good karate student. But even when he was fighting Johnny was like not even doing anything, and he wasn't even coming close to Johnny. Like, you can tell that there's levels to all of this. But speaking of that shot at the end, it was so iconic, and I keep saying this everyone I talk to, but it was the three senseis with each of their proteges.
Yep.
It was Kreese, who now has Robbie. It was Daniel with Sam, and Johnny with Miguel, and that's what it's going to be going forward with all of these side characters, with Tori and Hawk and Dimitri and all these characters. But it's about them six. That's what it's always been about. It's always been about them six, and that's what it's going to be going forward.
And the important part of all this, as we know, is that it was when Sam and them intervene, Daniel says, you take your Cobra Kais and you have, like, leave us alone. And Kreese's response is, well, it's a free country. Which Johnny says, not for you, it's not.
Yeah.
Cobra Kai needs to die.
Yeah.
So the throwdown now is that it all ends at the tournament, at the All Valley tournament. And he goes, if we lose, we go away. But if you lose, and it's not I won't lose, it's we won't lose. And that comes out of Johnny's mouth.
Yes.
Which even Daniel looks at him. Daniel looks at him and goes, like, hold on. Oh, okay. But I want you to, Jake, if you can bring up ASG's last comment. He's absolutely right. Robbie did not do anything remotely bad this season. He was just,
he's put in a hard situation.
Over.
Yeah, 100%.
He's put in a very hard situation because he just wants somebody to give a damn about him. And the people that say they do, they don't. And the one guy that says he does is a fucking crazy ass.
Well, they don't, but they definitely they don't show it as well as they should. There's some value.
Think about it. Johnny stays in the hospital to be with Miguel over your own son. Okay, that my dad doesn't give a shit about me. The guy that kind of takes you under his wing calls the cops on you. Well, I feel I get why Robbie's
no, from his vantage point, absolutely. Okay.
Yeah.
But
from his point of view, the Jedi were evil.
What do you want?
There you go.
Brian, you got thoughts on the final fight before we move on to the next few scenes?
Oh, I love it. It's funny to ASG's comment. I'm still kind of not convinced Robbie is fully Kreese's, because to me, the only person that matches Kreese is Tori. They're both psycho. And she's crazy. He is crazy. Robbie, I feel like, is going to probably end up being more like a Hawk situation.
He'll flip.
And then Tori's just going to be that full psycho, Kreese's full-on protege. Like, I could honestly see Robbie just kind of being like, I don't want any of this. Like, I don't want a part of any of this.
Actually, Tim makes a good point.
But I will say, I want to throw, actually, when Tim says that too, it is a good point, but also the show does a good job of still not vilifying him for it, because they kind of throw it in his face, like when he has the remorse, like he's in a tough situation, and then he finds Miguel and Sam together again. So it's still like, it is wrong, but they have a good way of showing that he's still not so evil. It's not like he's just not showing remorse. There's reasons why he keeps getting the interactions that make it so he can't show any kind of remorse. He doesn't get a chance to show remorse, but they shove it back in his face in his young, immature mind.
All right, well, let's.
I can't believe it's taken you for this long to talk about this last scene.
You know why? Because you have to really build up to it, Brian. You have to build up to the fact that they did the fucking thing.
Which one do we want to talk about first? Do we want to talk about Miyagi-Do scene, or are we going to talk about the phone call? Which one do we want to talk about?
I mean, the phone call's cool. The phone call's cool, but we already know what that is. We're like, all right, cool.
Okay.
You don't know when Daniel walks out, you're kind of like, okay, and then if shows the students, you're like, okay, So he's going to start training him again. And you have the Air Tonight playing. You're like, okay. And then you see Sam look, and you see Miguel.
Yes.
And you're like, oh. Then you see Hawk.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh. And then the other students, you're like, oh. And they hug, and they,
It's by the way, the other students are Mitch and Chris are the big guys. I found out their names. Mitch and Chris.
Yeah.
Mitch
But there's
is
the little ones. There's the little ones that show up. Then there's the little.
He's excited too.
I know.
The two little ones.
the two little nerdy ones. Yeah.
The two, they hug it out. Chris and Mitch hug it out. Hawk and Dimitri, and they're all standing there. And then it pans, and you see him walk in, and you're just like,
fucking
oh,
Johnny
shit.
Lawrence.
Yeah.
And
then, and they just give each other this. Yeah, they just give each other this nod, and like then they stand next to each other, and then when they bow, they don't say anything.
Look how excited he is, you guys. Look how excited he is.
I'm getting goosebumps right now because when they bow to the students,
I know.
and then they turn to each other, and they bow like. I'm like, oh my god, this is amazing.
They did the thing.
They did the fucking thing.
Yeah, I'm like getting goosebumps right now talking about it. Go ahead, PJ, because I want to hear what you got to say about it.
Look, the moment that In the Air Tonight starts playing, by the way, is like already you're kind of like that song is real atmospheric, and so kind of to have this moment where it's. You never know what kind of comes with a song like that. Chris Clark, the great Chris Clark, that I'm sure you guys all know. We were talking about this last night, and the dude goes, "Are we talking about Tarzan?" Not realizing apparently that Phil Collins has done more than Tarzan. But we're talking about this moment, man. And in my entire life, I never thought we'd finally see a point like ever. That Johnny and Daniel finally come together. Like, all of the end of season 2 was leading up to this moment that we thought that they would have to come together. They have to put their differences aside to fight Kreese. But even throughout this season, they couldn't do it yet. There was still the thing standing in the way. And that thing was still what had happened with Allie, what had happened in their past. With that behind them and realizing the common enemy was no longer each other, but the common enemy is actually Kreese, I was legit just all up and down having just goosebumps, just chills in seeing them look at each other, and they bow to the students, then they turn and they bow to each other, and it's like these fuckers are going to stand together and kick the shit out of Kreese and Cobra Kai. They're going to fucking end Cobra Kai. Was just so next level good. And it's such a turning point, again, for Johnny, who his whole life stood behind everything that Cobra Kai taught him. He brought Cobra Kai back. And for him to be like, I will fucking destroy you. I will destroy you to get my son back. This is like Return of the Jedi levels of Luke Skywalker being like, I will destroy everything the Empire is to get my father back. That's where we're at right now. And everything about it is so fucking awesome, and I waited so long for this moment, and it made me so happy. Woo, I love Cobra Kai.
Before PJ blows a gasket, PLD, go for it.
I don't even know what I could say anything different from these guys, but I did exactly the same thing. I'm waiting for it. You're waiting for it to come together. You get the nod in the parking lot together, and you're like, okay, is this actually how's this gonna work? Are they gonna commit all out to it, or is it gonna be kind of like we're gonna see it happen slowly over next season? No, we just have them all arrive slowly, and just like. I built up in my chair. I'm like, they're doing it. Holy shit, they're doing it. Oh my god. Where is he? There he is. Yes! It's so powerful. That music starts playing, and you just like, I want season 4 right now.
Right?
I don't want to wait a year, man.
No,
I don't.
The show came out on Friday. Like,
I know.
So long.
That sucks.
And
man.
we waited almost 2 years already.
So long.
Jake, I was trying to convince you guys to spread it out, and you guys were not.
You don't understand, Brian. We waited 2 years for this, okay?
Oh, I understand. It was just like, it was funny because we were like, all right, we're going to watch the first 5, save it tomorrow. Then we're like, we got to 7, and we're like, okay, we'll stop here. 8th episode, 9th episode, fuck it, we're finishing it. And then he started screaming when this happened, and
Johnny Lawrence and Daniel together. They are together with headbands teaching students.
They're creating their own dojo together. Are you kidding me?
Miyagi thing.
I want to see them. I would love to see a scene of them just arguing over the name.
Miyagi Kai.
Yeah. Well, I think that's what's going to be the thing next year. Is they're going to be they're not going to split, but they're going to argue. The teachings are going to be like, well, I learned this way, you learn this way, and they're going to figure it out together. And then the tournament comes, and it's going to be a new style of mixed of both of their styles.
Yep.
And what's very interesting is the 3 pairs. So you're going to have Robbie. I think it's going to be like Robbie versus Hawk at some point. Tori versus Sam, and then Miguel versus Kyler. Because remember that situation's not finished yet, because him and Kyler, he beat the shit out of Kyler one time. Now Kyler's training, so Kyler's gonna be like, let's go. And at the house fight, he even says, let's go. You know, I owe you for last time. So now that's gonna be a situation. And so
that's interesting, but I'm thinking more so Hawk and Kyler, because Kyler was the one that called him Lip.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think Hawk and Kyler,
and they haven't fought yet too.
He's been making fun of
true.
his thing for like ever.
Yeah.
So.
But I mean, it could really, because that, like you said, so they fought at the house. It's not done. And Robbie and Hawk, Robbie kicked Hawk last season at the mall fight.
Remember Hawk broke his or just located it.
Yes, they have a little beef with each other, so it can really go anywhere. We could see multiple people fight each other. I mean, who knows?
Yeah. No,
It's
definitely,
gonna be awesome.
definitely.
It's gonna be.
I'm so excited, and they're gonna bring back next. I don't want them to bring it back, but if they do for the tournament, I'll be happy. The best around. If that song plays, I'll probably lose my shit.
I think you'll hear at least one.
I won't get demonetized for it.
I would not be against that at all. To be honest.
All right, gentlemen. Well, any final thoughts on Cobra Kai season 3 before we had here? We just hit the 2-hour mark. So, what do you guys? Got anything else?
That there was not nearly enough time to keep talking about this, because I could go for another 3 hours.
Yeah.
Right.
Easily.
My only upsetting thing is, I know people hate it. I wish they would have released one episode at a time, because I binge damn that thing in like 5 hours, and then I did it again. And it's like now we have to wait, and like PJ just said, we have to wait a year, and it's like,
well, and after how the Mandalorian has been rocking, it would have been cool, because it would have been very similar with all of us, at least watching Cobra Kai together. You know, staying up later or early or whatever.
It would have been the same.
But I gotta say, the experience of sitting down for 6 straight hours and watching a 10-hour movie was pretty incredible.
To that point, I'd love to point out, like, they have done what most of these streaming shows can't. Like, a lot of people are like, oh, our show's a movie, like it's a 10-hour movie. You could say that, but most of them still feel like a TV show. Cobra Kai does not. Cobra Kai feels like a straight movie, and each season has felt like a 6-hour movie, and I think that's incredibly impressive.
Very much.
I just can't wait tomorrow, because I get to see my kids tomorrow, and I know this is all they're going to be talking about, and I'm just excited. I'm excited to hear what they think, because I guarantee you none of them, if maybe one or two, have seen the movies. So it's going to be interesting to me how they don't have that aspect. It's strictly the show. So I'm very curious to see how.
PJ, are we going to do a watch along of all 3 Karate Kid movies?
That is my plan. Yeah, that is my plan.
Okay, you got to let me know when you do that, because I'll
have all of you on.
I mean, we have the Karate Kid crew right here.
Yeah, and of course we'll have Maxwell, because who doesn't have a Maxwell in there?
Yes, true.
Exactly.
True. All right, well, I think we're gonna have to make this a yearly thing.
100%.
I think we're gonna have.
Oh, please! Give it a month, maybe less, and there's gonna be, you guys are gonna break down every single episode.
Yeah, possibly.
I will be there. Sign me the fuck up.
To all of you guys, you know, PJ, Shug, PLD, Brian, thank you guys for hanging out on the channel, doing a Cobra Kai review with me. Super appreciative that you guys hung out, and everybody in the chat as well, hanging out and watching this whole time. 2 hours of Cobra Kai talk. We really appreciate it. Hope you guys enjoyed it. This was an absolute blast. This is the first on this channel, so thank you guys so much. Let's just go around the room real quick. PJ, let everyone know where they can find you online.
You guys can find me on Twitter and Instagram at PJ_Campbell. You can find me over at the PJ Campbell Network, where I'm headed in the next half hour. We're going to be doing a watch-along, a Miracle. We do all sorts of stuff over there. So go subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And you can find me at the Movie Trivia Schmodown, where I write the questions. I'm the head writer. Be nice to the writers. We're only human. Mistakes happen. And I'll see you guys in Season 8, because it's war.
Shug?
You can find me at Twitter and Instagram at ShugKnight323 and ShugKnight1323 on Instagram. But you catch me on the Let's Get Ready Network, where we talk about Schmodown, and we talk about PJ Campbell's question writing all the time. That's what we do over there.
They like me though. They like me.
Oh,
we'll
yeah,
talk
that's
about
PLD
that.
show. Wrong show. And thank you for having us on, man. Really appreciate you, Paul,
Yeah.
Brian, PJ. It was awesome just hanging out with you guys and talking. And everybody in the chat was really awesome. So thank you very much for having me.
Of course, always should. Paul?
At Paul_Denizio on Twitter. You can find me on the Call to Action podcast, doing Chilled Action, the show we did yesterday with 3 out of these 4 people because they were all after show reactor nominees, and that was a fun show yesterday. You can find me.
Left out again.
Well, if Frank crashed a show, you should have crashed a show too at one point. Frank the Slug, as I call him. But PLD Projects is where I do my own stuff. I'm going to have a Star Wars show on there soon. Me, Bador, Jake, not Jake. I think I see Jake all the time. It's Jake Alcavetas, Jake Berlettas, Jake Todd on the chat. Anyway, it's a Richard, Eric Jarvie, Bador, Matt Gunner, myself. We're not sure exactly the format yet. We're working that out. Finally, also on Action Industries, where on Saturday we actually did episode 2 of Root of the Question. Didn't get much controversy this time, I'm happy to say. I think we worked everything out. It was a lovely time. We love PJ over there as well. But I'm on with Ben Bateman and Andrew Guy on all of their weekend stuff for the most part. We got some potentially new shows coming out as well. Stay tuned there. So thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it. I love this crew, and I love them.
Awesome. You're always welcome. Brian?
Well, I mean, wherever you are is where I am. So I mean, just find Jake, find me.
I will say everyone's links are in the description to YouTube channels and Twitters and stuff like that, so you guys can check them out there. As for myself, this is my personal channel. I do a show called The Whiskey Jedi in here where I break down whiskey and Star Wars at the same time. And I have fun doing it. It's a personal show. I have people on with me sometimes, and so I know, Paul, I see you. I'm going to have you on at one point. PJ, I'm going to have you on at one point. Don't worry. Suge, I don't know if it's whiskey or Star Wars, but I'd love to have you on.
I mean, we could do tequila in Star Wars,
You can drink tequila. I'll drink
There you go.
Yeah, so and then obviously you can check out A Certain Point of View, a Schmodown show. We're over there doing all kinds of Schmodown stuff as well. We just announced a brand new show with Jill and Molly. Not yet. Come on. Relax.
Right now we're still rating champs for at least like a week or 2.
We just announced a brand new show called Happy Hour with Jill and Molly, which we are very, very excited about. Also, I'm a part of a movie podcast with Brian called Apocalypse Movies. We go live Tuesdays and Thursdays, 7:30 p.m. Pacific, where we talk about everything movies, fantasy drafts, watch-alongs, all that good stuff. You can check it out. Again, all the links are in the description. So everyone watching, thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. Really, really appreciate it. And until next year for another Cobra Kai breakdown, thanks again, and we will see you guys next time.
Later.
Bye, guys.